This story starts with a man streaming on a website called MeTube. When one of the viewers asks what kind of stream it is, he says he's just going to yap and that lately, he's been very stressed. One of the viewers, named Reman, says that they are too. The man continues, saying that life's been difficult for him, and even though his younger siblings probably look to him as a role model, he doesn't know what he can do to make ends meet, especially considering the unemployment crisis. Since he's the oldest, he has to take responsibility for his family and take care of his siblings. When asked about his other family members, we learn that he and his younger siblings live with their grandmother. His rent's due tomorrow, but he'd feel bad if he asked his grandmother for rent money. One of the viewers says that he should use his time to work instead of streaming. He replies that he was discharged 2 months ago and has been looking for work ever since. Even though he needs money right now, that's just how it is. If they don't want to listen to him talk, they can just leave. He only started streaming because he was feeling super stressed out. We see some woman lost in thought. Then, he gets a 5 million won donation from her, making everybody confused. The man surprised and asks her what's going on, double-checking with Reman if they missed a zero or something. He thinks that maybe it's a big channel farming for clips with the premise of giving a streamer with no views a ton of money and looking for their reaction. He starts to think about it, saying they don't have any money, so he can't give this back to them. He has to get his younger sibling an admission gift and needs to pay off 6 months of rent. Some people in the chat start asking for money, but Reman ignores them and tells him she doesn't plan on taking the money back. He starts to think about it and then tells her to give him some kind of request. As long as it does not pertain to his family, he'll do anything she wants. Reman then asks him if he will save Eden for her. He wonders if maybe it's a game or something and says, sure, it's not a problem, and he'll do it. Then, he hears a voice in his head. Reman says that they've now made a contract, and his name is Kim Siwoo. A bright light appears on his head, and due to him agreeing to save Eden, he is transported there. His hand plunging through somebody's chest as he immediately latches onto something, pulling it out. He lets out a sigh and says goodbye to Lucifer. What he has just defeated was Lucifer, and he pulled his heart out. Lucifer's body vanishes, and Kim Siwoo wipes some of the blood away, saying it's all because he took one wrong donation that his life was flipped upside down. The crazy one was him, he says, adding that Reman scammed him with a donation and then summoned him here. He's had to fight for his life every single day. It started out with a mace in his hands. Reman said she would offer him her strength and that all he had to do was defeat the enemies in front of him. It's a very cliché situation. He tries to tell her that she's picked the wrong guy and should have chosen someone more fit, but she tells him he's the only one she can rely on to save Eden. If he does save it, she'll send him back to Earth. He wonders if that's really all he has to do. He tells her she better make sure that his siblings and grandmother live good lives and get him a job when he gets back to Earth. If she keeps that promise, he'll save Eden. No worries. Like that, he ends up making a contract with the goddess of another world by the name of Reman. She says they're the enemy, so what could he do except fight? He made sure to give it his best. In the end, since he was summoned by a goddess, he ended up becoming a pope for her. But that wasn't all. Eden was crawling with demons and enemies, so he eradicated each and every one of them along with the 7 demon kings. That was the only way for him to save Eden. It took him a grand total of 10 years. He wonders if his siblings are doing well and if he'll be able to live a normal life when he returns to Earth. We hear Reman's voice asking Kim Siwoo if he's okay. He says yes, asking what's wrong. She says she's sorry and thanks him, as their contract is now over. He smiles, saying that since she told him he'd have a job when he goes back, he'll believe her and leave. He thought the other world was draining and godforsaken, but it's not as if it was all bad. She then tells him to look around at the world he saved. He says he's going to miss it a little bit. He looks over, making a bittersweet face, and then waves goodbye to Reman, saying the next time she scams someone, she needs to be more shameless about it instead of being sorry. He tells her bye. She thanks him, and as he's teleported back to Earth, she says she's truly sorry. Kim Siwoo was just happy that he's actually going back to his peaceful Earth. As he gets closer, he says he's missed Korea so much. As he starts to descend, he sees what should be his peaceful city of Seoul is littered with flying wyverns. Kim Siwoo stares in disbelief as he watches an all-out war take place between humanity and these monsters. Some Korean soldiers are even shit-talking the chain of command, asking if they're just meant to be eaten. Kim Siwoo says he's missed hearing Korean so much, yet the very first thing he hears is vanity. Now he is truly back after 10 years, but he wonders what's going on with Earth. He laughs, saying Earth is definitely done for, or maybe he's still dreaming of Eden. He thinks he just missed Korea so much that he fell victim to the Queen of Nightmares. Smiling, he says, nah, because there's no way that could happen. Reman cuts him off, saying that he took her head with his own 2 hands. She calls him her pope and tells him he was incredibly sexy when he did it, straight flirting with him. Kim Si-woo turns to see her and seems a little annoyed. She notices, saying that he doesn't look happy, and it seems that sending him back was pointless. He says he thought their contract ended with his return. She says she's sad, as she is still a goddess he served for a time, and he should at least show some love and respect. It's all thanks to her that he returned here safe and sound. He says if it wasn't for her dragging him to that damn world in the first place, he wouldn't have had to struggle so much to begin with. She then thinks about it, saying that if he had stayed on Earth, he would have died. He's surprised, asking how she could possibly know that. She says that despite how he sees her, she is still a god. A status window appears, saying that a god from another dimension is interfering with the principles of Earth and a strong principle is being forced to comply. Due to an error, his time will stop for 5 minutes. Kim Si-woo asks what she's doing. Ree-man says 5 minutes seems rather short, but it must be because this dimension is where the main event is occurring, and this is the limit of causality despite her interference as a god. She speaks frankly to him, asking if he would like to make another contract with her. He asks if she means another slave contract. She says this time, if he doesn't agree, she won't try to force him. She says he'll definitely want to have this contract because, if he forms one with her, he'll be able to keep all the power he used in the other world. But of course, since she doesn't have any believers here, there would be some conditions. He says he thought those were powers he could just naturally keep using. She explains that moving across dimensions isn't so simple and interferes with causality, so losing his powers was a given. He starts to get annoyed, saying she's driving him nuts. She admits forming another contract might be a bit much since he endured so much in Eden, but he asks her what she's doing, and she seems a little confused. He tells her to hurry up and continue with the contract because he doesn't want to lose his powers. She's still completely clueless, but he doesn't want to be some washed protagonist. A status window appears, saying the second contract is complete and that Ree-man supports Kim Si-woo. Since this is a contract for another dimension, the causality will be investigated and judged. It tells him to wait as it counts down. As the investigation found no problems, in 1 minute, the flow of time will resume. She then calls out to him, saying that unfortunately, she doesn't have any infrastructure in this world, so she can't be with him for long. She's sure that he has many things he'd like to ask her, but before that, there is something he absolutely must do. Divine power is a strength founded on belief in another being. If there is no faith, then it will cease to be, and as such, in order for him to maintain his strength, he must convert people on Earth to believe in her. She says it's surely that simple for him, as he was the Pope of the Ree-man order, after all. He starts to sweat nervously, thinking about it, and she says that they'll see each other again in no time. She tells him to try not to cry because he misses her, and then she leaves once more, calling him her Pope. He tells her to wait, but the flow of time has now resumed, and a quest has been given to him. The quest is to found the order, and it's pretty much what we just talked about, her having a lack of believers. The time limit for the quest is 90 days, and if he doesn't complete it, everything he possesses will be reset. He's still a little taken aback by the fact that they're going to have one in this world, saying that people are just going to see him as a cult leader. One of the wyverns screeches while flying toward him. It begins to open its mouth, and he turns, watching as it starts to get closer. The air around Si-woo gets serious as he glares at the wyvern. Lightning begins to form in his hand, and he stretches his hand out, grabbing onto the wyvern's wing and ripping it off its body, causing it to scream even more. All of the soldiers ask if this is real. When Si-woo turns with blood on his face, he immediately understands that he could take this chance to recruit them. While the 3 dudes are still surprised, he asks if they would like to hear about their Lord and Savior, Ree-man. They look at him like he's crazy, and Si-woo starts to realize that maybe he is completely screwed. They tell him no, and they're sorry. Then, we see that he actually has to get 10,000 followers, so maybe he really is cooked. Si-woo decides to brush it off, and we see him ripping the wings off more wyverns as he decides to just get to work dealing with the monsters at hand. He then locks in as a massive lightning bolt forms, striking down a wyvern in the sky. All of the soldiers sit there with blank expressions on their faces. One of them mentions that they're not picking up any magic on the detector, asking if a returner is meant to be this strong. They say that typically, the rank of a returner is determined by how much magic is detected from them, but there's no way a returner who drops wyverns like this is of a regular rank. That feat alone is at least the power of a disaster rank returner. As we see him surrounded by wyvern corpses, the man then says, in accordance with the emergency response manual at the Special Investigation Bureau, that he requests the immediate summoning of the entire bureau over his walkie-talkie. They ask if the situation is that bad, and he says it's not about the gate, as they have confirmed the presence of an immensely strong returner who isn't getting detected by the magic detectors. This means he isn't a regular, outside of their current standards. The man says he'll talk to him first, and they should just send in support. Just in case, he tells them it was nice working with them. We learn that his name is Dongshik, and Si-woo looks around, asking if that was really it. He says he's pretty much just a human SWAT at this point but wonders where all the soldiers went. On cue, Dongshik runs over to him. When Siwoo turns and starts looking at him, Siwoo wonders if this guy is the boss. He looks like a pain in the ass, and he wonders if maybe he wasn't supposed to catch the wyverns. But immediately, Dongshik gets all happy, telling him it's nice to meet him and that he would love to help him get settled in, leaving Siwoo confused, because he's not the only one who's confused. The scene shifts to an apartment complex in the Ganji province, specifically Gwangyamaing City. As Siwoo stands before the door, he recaps his conversation with Dongshik. Dongshik told him that he looked into his family, and both his brother and sister are safe. They're living in the Gang province, and his grandmother is still traveling in the United States. Then, he pretty much just rants about how, at their Department of Ability Management, they'll help and support him at all costs, and if he has any questions, he should just contact them. Siwoo says it seems they are very welcoming. Everything seems fine, and he expected his siblings to figure something out. No matter how much the world changed, his grandmother has always been eccentric as well. He says that since it's been 10 years, his younger brother, Inwook, should be around 27. But Dongshik says he might be surprised by this, it has only been 5 years here on Earth. That means if he spent 10 years in Eden, he isn't 32 but 27. He says he doesn't know how much Earth has changed in the last 5 years, but the people here seem to treat returners well. It's great to hear that they're all doing well, and he wonders if Ree-man had something to do with that. His family, whom he missed even in Eden, is something he's been longing for forever. He didn't even have a photo with him. But he wonders why he's so nervous, saying it's the most nervous he's ever been. He rings the doorbell, only for it to be silent. He rings it a couple more times until he hears Inwook asking who's there. Siwoo clears his throat anxiously and tells his brother it's been a while, asking him how he's been. He's super excited, but Inwook just tells him that they aren't religious and completely blows him off, asking if he's really trying to go door to convert people in this day and age. Siwoo tries to tell him that's not what he's here for, but Inwook says he should change his clothes before he tries to deny it, and he'll call the police if he doesn't leave. He clicks his tongue, saying he was having such a good nap, calling him crazy. Siwoo starts to get pissed and yells, telling him to open the damn door. Inwook comes out with a bat in his hand, calling him a crazy cultist and asking if he wants to get his ass kicked, only to recognize him. Siwoo asks if he's going to hit him with that thing. Inwook immediately freezes up, surprised to see his brother. Siwoo says it wasn't quite the emotional reunion he expected. As we see his brother making him food, he tells his brother to make him 3 more as he eats a bowl of ramen. Siwoo says even if the reunion wasn't emotional, the food sure did hit, as it's his first time in 10 years eating Korean food. Inwook sighs, saying he can't believe it. Siwoo asks what he's talking about. Inwook says that he thought his brother died, yet now he's sitting here, eating all their ramen while dressed like a cultist. Siwoo says he shouldn't use that word on his brother, asking if he's mad that he ate without him, saying he should eat too. Inwook says that's not it. Turns out that Siwoo told him everything, and Inwook starts to ask him about Eden and the last 10 years. Siwoo says that it surely doesn't really matter since he's back safe and sound, asking what he's so curious about. Inwook sits there for a second, thinking about it, and tells him everything. He wonders what he did in the other world all this time and how he came back, as that's the most important thing. Siwoo goes to tell him about what he did there, but then he thinks about how everything he's accomplished was just him having a brutal crusade. He hesitates for a second and tells his brother, never mind. Inwook says there are 2 things people hate. The first is when someone doesn't finish their sentence. Before he can finish the other one, Siwoo just tells him that it's not a fun story. Most stories like this aren't. The world, taken over by demons, was so horrendous that the amount of blood he got on his hands trying to save it was just way too much. He busted his ass fighting for Eden, and now he's finally back on Earth. He looks over at his quest notification and sees that it still hasn't moved at all. He starts to get a bit annoyed, saying he spent so long growing his holy power to this level, yet he's probably just going to lose it all. Inwook tells him to go ahead and finish his food as he's going to get some work done since he is awake. As he sits down at his computer, Siwoo asks what he's doing, and Inwook says that he works as a MeTube editor. He's been making money doing this since he disappeared, and he has a lot of work as he's editing for a pretty big MeTuber. Siwoo says that's admirable, and he always seemed interested in video editing, so he's glad he ended up doing it. He tells his brother that the video looks realistic, and his brother says he probably didn't know this, but it's all real. There are people called players who take care of gates, monsters, and dungeons, just like in novels. Siwoo asks if they use system windows as scales too, and Inwook says yeah, adding that since he used to read so many web novels, it probably made sense to him very quickly. But Siwoo seems to really start thinking about it while his brother yaps. He thinks about how MeTube might be his way out and tells his brother, this is it, which startles him. If he makes MeTube content, he'll be able to expose the Ree-man order and get subscribers and followers. Then, the status window tells him that his religious order trait has been activated. Saiwu turns, wondering what it means, only to see that it explains everything about the order, the objective and how he can use divine points in the store. The items will change based on the number of followers. The only option at the moment is called charity, which means all followers of the order will earn extra experience and have an extremely small chance of awakening the target if they aren't a player. It costs 1,000 points, and the next upgrade unlocks at 10,000 followers. Saiwu wonders if this popped up because he thought of starting a channel, saying pretty much everything is locked still, so there's nothing useful, but charity might come in handy. Inwook asks if he's going to start a channel, saying he doesn't want to be the one to tell him, but it probably won't work out because he needs to be approved by the government if he wants to create player-type content, and not everybody can do it. But it can't be helped, as he doesn't know anything since he just got back, so he'll provide for him as he earns quite well. Saiwu says he appreciates the gesture, but he's full of it and the one who doesn't know anything. He asks how he would have found him after being gone for 5 years, and it was none other than the government's help that brought him back. When Dongshik asks what he was going to do, Saiwu says that he wants to expand his order. Dongshik says that Korea is a free country, and freedom of religion comes with it, but he hopes the beliefs don't go against any conventional norms. Saiwu says that she's a merciful goddess, and if he just hears him out, he'll understand. Dongshik says, sure, but after a bit of talking, he pulls out the classic just smile and wave, not actually wanting to be converted. Then he tells him that he's a VIP of the Department of Ability Management and that if he needs something done, he should contact him. He welcomes him back to Earth, as he is the first irregular of South Korea. His brother starts pogging out of his gourd while Saiwu seems all proud. Inwook says that he can't believe the same guy who just stuffed his face with 10 packs of ramen could be an irregular. Saiwu jokes, saying that he'll kill him. Inwook wonders why he didn't just say that first, and Saiwu says he can't tell him that he'll lose his power if he doesn't get 10,000 followers. Inwook says that since he was a pope, he's probably going to start MeTube to get followers for the order. Asking if he's right, he says that if that's the case, it's not going to be easy when he's wearing clothes like that, as it's not like anyone on Earth knows who his goddess is. Saiwu tells him to hear him out, asking, what if I have the ability to awaken regular people? Inwook says if he has that ability, he'll be recruited by pretty much every country. But there's no way such an ability exists, as he would make a fortune, and he would immediately sign up for it as well. Saiwu doesn't even try to fight any of his arguments and only says that his goddess is one of mercy and charity. He shows him his status window. Inwook wonders if that means he can become a player if he only believes, but Saiwu says that he can't do it yet. However, if he gets more followers, he thinks he can buy the trait that will make becoming a player not up to random chance but something everybody can work towards. Asking his brother what he thinks, we see the count of millions of followers he's got. Inwook says he's already ready for it, as he's ready to spread the good word of their Lord and Savior. Saiwu is surprised that he's already so into it, but Inwook just screams, telling Riemann that he believes in her. Saiwu says that he thought Inwook was an atheist, and Inwook just tells him to take him in already. Saiwu says to become a believer despite never having seen Riemann, he would expect no less from his younger brother. For now, his plan is to have a sort of online service using MeTube, but he still hasn't figured out the details. Inwook tells him not to worry, as he has a plan. The door then starts to beep, and Saiwu wonders who it is. Inwook tells him that it's finally time and that he has to take responsibility. Saiwu is still confused until the door opens, and they see a little girl. Saiwu immediately recognizes her as Sian, his little sister, who is really surprised to see her older brother. Saiwu quickly runs over, saying that she's gotten pretty and surely missed him. Her voice starts to break as she says that she thought he was dead. Right as she's on the verge of tears, he tells her that he was wrong and he's sorry for leaving without saying anything. But she immediately starts bawling her eyes out. He tries to get her to stop, but she just gets even louder. Saiwu asks his brother to help him, but Inwook says that this is karma. The next day, Sian making a pinky promise to Saiwu that they're going to go eat some food later. She says that she knows a really good place, so he has to eat there with her, and she'll be back. He waves her off to school. After that warlike day ended yesterday, they went around to all the neighbors and apologized for the noise, and peace finally returned. Saiwu heads downtown and tells someone that he talked with his brother, but for Awaken to properly be active on MeTube, they need state authorization. We see a man in front of Dongshik saying that they'll support him as much as he needs, and he's sorry for coming to find him so late. He introduces himself as Yu Xianho, the minister for the Department of Ability Management. Saiwu says he learned a bit about him before he came over and didn't expect to get straight to the head honcho. But he guesses that's the power he has, which was similar to Eden. Since the Riemann order is the first religious order in Eden, leaders of all species came together before. Xianho asks if he's going to be doing missionary activities, and Saiwu says yes. Xianho awkwardly says that's good and tells him it's okay to reveal that he's a returner on MeTube. But he also needs to reveal that he's an irregular through a press conference sponsored by their department. Saiwoo agrees, and then we see a video of the day he returned, killing the wyverns. Saiwoo asks if this has been released already, and Seonho says they put an embargo on it, but they couldn't block it. Saiwoo says that he's sure his brother, who is well versed in MeTube, has probably seen it already. Seonho says he might feel bad about it, but they'll assign some agents around him for a while, and he promises on his name that there won't be any harm dealt to him. Since an irregular rank has never appeared in South Korea, their management is still lacking, so hopefully, he can forgive them. Saiwoo says if you think about it, it makes sense, and there's not really any problem with this, so he'll just go with it. Then, it jumps back to him at the house, and his grandma is calling him rotten, saying if he returned, he should have contacted her immediately. He apologizes to her, and she says it's fine since he has come back. She's going to finish her travels, and he should take care of Seon and Inwook. He tells her to make sure to stay careful, and then the phone hangs up. He says that Granny is speaking as if she obviously knew he'd come back. Inwook says that she actually mentioned having dreams of him, and according to her dreams, she witnessed him sometimes steadily walking across an endless horizon and fighting winged monsters. He wonders if that's what gave her such beliefs. Saiwoo says it sure is fascinating, and Inwook says he also thought that his brother was dead, but the fact that he's here doesn't feel real yet. Saiwoo starts to just feel happy that he's being welcomed, and he explains that they all had a great relationship in the past, even more so during his senior year of high school after their parents died in a car accident. It would have been hard if their grandma didn't raise them. He says Inwook must have waited for him for quite a while, and in the end, he gave up thinking he was dead. Inwook then tells him that they made his funeral a woodland burial, and there's a tree with his name on it. They should have done a 5-year contract, but they ended up deciding to do a 10-year one. Seon made it really pretty, and Saiwoo says they should just go get a refund. Saiwoo says his brother sure can lock in as he starts editing the video, and then he says that he should tell him about the thing he mentioned last time. His brother says he has a plan, showing him a MeTube channel called Player K with 5.4 million subs, and he's going to be able to do that. Saiwoo then starts looking at the video, analyzing it, saying that the reason he has so many subs is because he's handsome. Inwook says that he has a great personality too, and he's had no controversy so far, and he pays him consistently. His brother says right now, actually, just having the channel is good because it usually takes around 2 weeks. As his brother is aware, the easiest way for those who are starting channels to get attention is through the help of bigger channels and corporations. There's content that he can participate in that Player K is doing as well. It is the Newbie Military Academy, pretty much just guides and walkthroughs. We learn Player K's name is actually Min-soo, and he teaches newbies a lot. There happens to be an opening because one of them got hurt while catching a monster, and when Inwook talked to him about it, Min-soo said he'd like to do an interview. Saiwoo asks his brother if he really thinks he's a newbie, saying from what he sees, Min-soo is the one with less experience. His brother laughs, saying that's exactly the plan. He says that they're going to go with the main character hiding his power and that they're going to participate with this kind of concept, asking if he thinks it's a good plan for their channel. He hasn't told Min-soo the details yet, but if he does, he will definitely think of it positively, and they should just do the interview and proceed with the rest after, as Min-soo likes this type of content. His brother wonders what kind of monster he's awoken. Then, it jumps to them driving the car, and Saiwoo says the filming site is far. His brother tells him that they're almost there and it'll be another 30 minutes. They finally arrive at the mega mountain range. They get out of their car and look around, and Saiwoo says that this atmosphere is hella creepy, asking if this is the right place. Inwook says yes, but the atmosphere is definitely a bit odd and that Min-soo isn't answering his phone. Saiwoo says since the signal isn't good, it's quite strange as well, and he didn't know there was a place like this left in South Korea. He can tell that something's not quite right, as there are traces of stuff in the air. He tells his brother that they should go back as they're going to suspend the project. His brother tells him to wait, and he's probably just busy filming, which is why he can't pick up the phone, and they should just go find him first. But Saiwoo says no. After his endless fights in Eden and his extremely developed senses from receiving Reman's blessing, this is demonic energy that only monsters and demons can give off. Saiwoo asks his brother if Min-soo is actually a good person and if there are any rumors about him sacrificing people and worshipping demons. Inwook says no, as he's a really famous member, and Saiwoo says, my ass, and that he just trusts people too easily. If he keeps doing that, he's going to be stabbed in the back. Inwook asks why he's so angry, saying he sounds like he's experienced it firsthand. All Saiwoo can think of is Reman but says nothing like that has ever happened. Inwook says 3 years ago, Granny was in the hospital, and Min-soo came by and paid for all the hospital bills without saying a single word to him. He had no money back then because he had just paid for the rent. Saiwoo says, on second thought, bro sounds like a hero, and he should have just led with that. Suspecting someone who would help another in financial risk is indeed no easy task. If it was 3 years ago, it means that it took place when he wasn't around, and he might actually be a great person. Saiwoo tells Inwook that he needs to return home in the taxi he took here, as this place is too dangerous. When Inwook asks about him, Siwoo says that since his plan isn't going to work, he needs a workaround. He taps his shoulder as his clothes start to magically swap to his priest outfit, and he says since online propagation won't work, he'll have to try to do it offline. As he strikes a pose, Inwook is confused, asking if he's some kind of magical girl, and begs that he let him record him transforming next time. But Siwoo kicks him into the van, telling him to leave. Inwook says he needs to use it for their MeTube intro. Siwoo says his brother used to not be this stubborn, but Inwook guesses it's his fault in the end. After a bit of walking through the forest, Siwoo stumbles across something, and a status window appears. You have entered the Abyss area. A related quest has been created. The quest is called Salvation. It will give him 50 divine points if he frees those who are facing torment in these lands. More demonic energy begins to flow through the air, and Siwoo says, at first glance, it looks like an ordinary mountain, but with this much energy around, there's got to be an abyss dungeon of sorts inside. He continues walking, and it's eerily quiet. He then stops as he's now sensed something nearby. He turns, telling people that the weather sure is nice today, as we see cameramen. Siwoo asks what they are all doing. They say they didn't mean to scare him and that they were just filming for their channel. One of them asks what he's doing here, saying it's dangerous to be here with a dungeon nearby. Siwoo says that he's here to meet Min-soo, and his little brother must have contacted them, asking if they got anything. The guy says that he must be the returner he's heard about, and Min-soo did mention something about an interview. If you just gave them a call, they would have met you at the entrance, the cameraman says. But Siwoo says, my phone isn't working. The cameraman says, I can't believe there's a place in Korea with no network, though it's a relief to have met you like this. We can guide you to Min-soo. After a bit of walking, one of the cameramen starts to yap his ear off, saying they've been planning a very huge event. He's been helping Min-soo for a while, and so has Inwook. He asks if the priest's outfit is part of Siwoo's concept, but Siwoo says it's not. The dude says that it's unique and memorable and that it's a great tactic. Siwoo thinks this guy talks way too much. The dude says it's his first time meeting a returner and laughs. Then, Siwoo looks around, saying he has a question, asking if the three in the back are usually this quiet. The cameraman asks what he's talking about, saying they've been talking the entire time. As bro's eyes go absolutely crazy, Siwoo thinks about it and then asks the guy's name. He introduces himself as Seol Semyoung. Siwoo tells Semyoung to listen to what he has to say. As he taps his hands, his gloves begin to appear on him, just like his outfit earlier. Lightning then begins to appear at the tip of his finger and shoots out directly forward, blowing the head off one of the cameramen behind Semyoung. His face gets painted by some type of residue. Semyoung starts to scream as he sees that the three dudes are actually just leaking demonic essence rather than blood and are standing there without their heads. Semyoung asks what the hell this is, and Siwoo says it seems like he's putting on quite a show from the start. The rest must be deeper inside, but it should be safe here. He tells Semyoung to wait for him to come back. Semyoung asks who he is and what he's here for, saying he doesn't know what's going on anymore. Siwoo says there's only one way to explain it, he's just here to spread the word of his goddess. As he starts to put on his typical priest smile, all Semyoung can do is be blinded by the light. Siwoo then enters the dungeon, which is called the Necromancer's Laboratory. It is in the process of abyssification. The dungeon name then changes from the Necromancer's Laboratory to the Bridgehead of Pride. If he does not defeat the boss of the dungeon, all land within a 5 km radius will be corrupted by the abyss. Siwoo says he doesn't know much about abyssification, but the demonic energy has become much more intense. He can also sense the magic of other players, and there must be quite a few left trying to resist the demonic energy. As he walks forward, he says it should be around here. He then sees lots of men slumped up against a box. It seems there are 2 of them, and he says that they are still alive but completely faceless. This clears up the identity of the creature he destroyed before entering the dungeon. They are actually mimics, monsters that knock out people, then transform into them and impersonate them. The reason they knock them out is that they can't transform into dead people. Since mimics are a low-level monster, they don't have vocal cords and are unable to speak, so they can't exist by themselves. This means the boss must be the doppelganger. Siwoo knows exactly what it is. The status window then says he has confirmed the keyword doppelganger and reveals that he is correct. Siwoo says he expected as much. Monsters like mimics, which can turn into others, are a pain to deal with even with prior knowledge, and it would be a living hell if they were to turn into their allies. He then hears somebody screaming and immediately wonders if it is a survivor or a doppelganger. But he runs in, saying it doesn't matter right now anyway. Siwoo sees a light and wonders if there are monsters crowded around whoever is screaming. He dashes through the blinding lights, only to see that there are lights set up on a tripod. Someone yells, "Cut," telling Siwoo he can't just pop out of nowhere, saying he was going so well a minute ago. Siwoo is surprised that there are survivors and that there are actually quite a few of them. The people say that now they have to shoot it all over again, asking if they just let him through, as they rented this dungeon out to shoot, so he can't just come in here like this. Saiwoo says he heard screams and acted on instinct, and he's sorry for that. The people outside let him in when he said he was here to meet Min-soo. The guy asks what he's here to see him for, and Saiwoo says that he made plans to meet him for a face-to-face interview. The dude says that he must be the returner and wonders why he was dressed so oddly. Saiwoo holds back his anger and says, "Yes, that's me," as he can't believe they're making fun of his drip. The guy then asks his co-workers if the walkie-talkies are still broken, and he tells one of the people nearby to guide him to Min-soo. The person asks if they're okay with being more casual with Saiwoo, and he says, "Sure," as they guide him away. Saiwoo looks around, saying fortunately, a few people haven't been afflicted by the demonic energy yet, but there still are quite a few who are. As he sees another faceless girl, he says that the doppelganger's group illusion is like a theater where the doppelganger is the protagonist and is currently in progress. Even the players who haven't been afflicted by the energy are still under its effects. If it's using group illusion, it means that it's gained a lot of power. That's probably why the demonic energy is seeping out outside of the dungeon. The guide then tells him that he doesn't need to be so nervous and that the whole place is under control. He asks what they mean, and they say they have the boss in captivity. Saiwoo asks what he means by captured, asking what the hell he just heard. The dude says this is usually how they do shootings in dungeons because the dungeon will vanish if they kill the boss, so they can't have that. But they also can't have it roaming freely, so they weaken the boss and tie it down. Then, the other monsters in the dungeon are weakened too, making it easy to film. He says that basically means they just push it to the brink of death and keep it alive. The dude says yes, saying it's efficient. Saiwoo says maybe Satan should have learned from humans. He says if they've been doing it all this time and it's been fine, they probably just got unlucky with the doppelganger. But it's probably just karma. In-wook seems to have faith in Min-soo, but it doesn't seem as if Min-soo knows what safety is, and this probably won't work out. They head to the boss room, and the dude tells him that Min-soo should be waiting for him inside and that he'll come back to film together later. Saiwoo thanks him and watches him leave. Then, he opens the door as we see Min-soo talking to some people. One of the people Min-soo is talking to deadpan stares behind him. Min-soo turns, wondering what he's looking at, only to see Seo. He asks what brings him here. Saiwoo introduces himself as In-wook's brother. Min-soo says he's heard a lot about him and was wondering when he'd get here. He's much more handsome than he described. Saiwoo says that this dude is straight glowing, and his voice is nice too. Min-soo says that it must have been hard for him coming all the way here. He tells him to take a seat. Saiwoo goes over to the side and sits down. Min-soo asks if they can edit the video like he'd asked, as he's going to go talk to Saiwoo for a bit. Saiwoo says that meta users sure are busy. Min-soo laughs, saying that he should have something better to offer since he came a long way, but all he has is instant coffee. Saiwoo says he likes it. Min-soo asks if the journey was okay, and Saiwoo says that there was some staff that brought him here and that there were actually a lot of people on the way. Min-soo says that realism is important for the project, so they bring in all the editors who can help. Saiwoo asks if everybody here is a player. Min-soo says yes, but they're usually just a little too unskilled to work as hunters. Not all players are the same, but he does pay them very nicely. Saiwoo wonders if maybe In-wook wants to be a player because of Min-soo. Min-soo says that he heard In-wook would be coming too, asking if he's waiting outside. But Saiwoo says he's not feeling well, so he just came alone. Min-soo asks if he got sick again, saying that he often got sick in the past when editing his videos. He says he'll send him some treats. Saiwoo says that the most efficient way to strike up a conversation with someone you don't know is to talk about what you have in common. He can tell that this guy is really sociable. He wonders if he was always like this or if he changed after becoming an influencer. Saiwoo starts to laugh, calling him an interesting guy. Min-soo asks what he means, but Saiwoo says he met his brother, as he's always been very weak. Min-soo laughs, saying he thought so. Min-soo says that Saiwoo is pretty handsome and, since he's a player, but Saiwoo cuts him off, saying he has a question. He says that he's a bit of a worrywart, asking if it's safe to film here. Min-soo says he understands, it's his first time in a dungeon, telling him to take a look at this as he moves a curtain over. Saiwoo, surprised, sees that what he is staring at is none other than the boss monster, all chained up. Min-soo says that above all else, he prioritizes safety. There are quite a few dangerous scenes on MeTube, but they can ensure safety comes first before anything is filmed. Saiwoo says he heard that one person had to drop out of the project, though. Min-soo says they weren't hurt on the scene, as they already had a disease and it just got worse. If he's worried about safety, he can just watch for a bit and decide if he wants to join. Saiwoo looks at him suspiciously and then chugs his instant coffee, saying, okay. Min-soo reassures him that he has no intention of pressuring him into this, but Siwoo says that they should just do it and shake hands since they're colleagues. Min-soo then welcomes him to the team, only for Siwoo to start electrocuting him. Min-soo asks him what he thinks he is doing, only for him to start screaming as his entire form starts to shift. Siwoo is just smiling deviously, and a status window says, the information of the passive skill, Sacred Fire, has been synchronized. Siwoo says, it's not fun if they are the only ones deceiving. A play should have some plot twists. As Min-soo's hands start to get charred, Siwoo asks him if he agrees, but all Min-soo can do is scream and fall to his knees in complete pain. Siwoo then goes to his ear and whispers, asking him how his acting was as he puts his hand on his shoulder, revealing that it was a doppelganger. We then hear Min-soo's thoughts as he says that when he realized the dungeon boss was a doppelganger, he thought he and all of his crew would die here. As it grabbing him by the throat, he explains that the monster neutralized him and took his appearance. He thought the outcome was already over, it made him look like the doppelganger instead, and they quickly chained him up. He couldn't speak to them as they were beating him to the brink of death. He calls out to his co-workers, only for them not to hear him, leaving him with nothing to do. Min-soo even crying while in the doppelganger form as the doppelganger moves the curtain aside and starts to walk towards him. 3 of his comrades on the ground with mimics taking their bodies. Min-soo asks the doppelganger how it feels to have the people he trusted look at him as if he's a monster. Min-soo just begs for it to kill him and end his suffering as the doppelganger starts to use his co-workers as leverage against him. Min-soo cries and begs for anybody to help him. On cue, when he was begging for them to be saved, that was when Siwoo smited down the doppelganger boss, pretty much deleting it. When Min-soo looked back up, he saw Siwoo looking down on him, and he wonders if maybe this was a dream. As the doppelganger is being burned alive by the blue flame, Min-soo feels the flame's warmth and says that for this to be a dream, it feels like a mother's embrace. Siwoo calls out to him, and Min-soo is surprised that he can see him. Siwoo says he can hear him too. Min-soo asks how, because even his team didn't recognize him. Siwoo tells him that he has great eyesight and then introduces himself as In-wook's brother. Min-soo says he likes that guy, he's really hardworking, young too, and does everything he can to provide for his younger sister and granny. He heard that his brother disappeared 5 years ago. Siwoo looks off to the side regretfully and tells Min-soo that he didn't give him a choice, as he was the one who suffered the most in this dungeon. Siwoo says there are 2 options for him to choose from. Min-soo says that the moment he realized the monster took his identity, he thought this would be the end for him, and he begs for his life to be over. Siwoo wonders what the hell he's talking about. Then Min-soo continues, saying that he'd rather die at the hands of a human. But Siwoo says that's not what he means, and his imagination seems to have gotten the better of him, he needs to actually listen to what he has to say. The first option is to crack this dude's head open. The second is to burn him with sacred fire again. And just so you know, the second option is far more painful. Min-soo doesn't hesitate, saying that he needs to make him suffer until his dying breath. Siwoo says, of course. Nothing beats burning demons. I'll roast him up nicely. As he sets him ablaze again, the doppelganger starts screaming like a maniac. The chains around Min-soo then start to break off as his body becomes enveloped by the sacred fire. A status window tells him, you have received salvation through the fire. You have completed the hidden objective, redemption. Another worldly god has responded to your tears. An image of a deity descending toward him. She opens her eyes and tells him not to blame himself, as it's not his fault. As his body starts to shift back to human, he cries, saying he's never once believed in miracles. But other than a miracle, what else could he call this? On Siwoo's end, the status window tells him, the dungeon will close in an hour. You have received 50 divine points for clearing it and an additional 100 for completing the quest, redemption. Siwoo says he doesn't feel great about this, wondering if things would have been different if he had arrived a little earlier. But, he says, it actually might have been worse. It doesn't seem like anyone got badly hurt, and they'll all wake up soon. On the ground, he hears Min-soo calling out to the goddess, and Siwoo says, that's that. He says he didn't expect to see Riemann so soon. The last time they said goodbye, he thought he wouldn't see her for years or something. She tells him that's because he's been working so hard, and she did say she'd see him soon. He says he didn't expect that to be in 3 days, though. She gets super close to him, saying that she's glad to see his face again. He sighs, asking her how long she can stay this time. She says, about 5 minutes. It's only possible because this place is strange. There's a dimensional gap here. I felt your presence, so I came immediately. He asks if this has anything to do with it being an abyss dungeon and says he'll look into it later. She says that he acts like he doesn't like seeing her, but she can tell that he does, he's always like this. He tells her to stop yapping. Since she doesn't like healing people directly, he asks how she managed to heal Min-soo when she can't even appear in person. Now he's also passed out due to her divinity. She says that she thought he was a good person. A person who blames himself for his teammates getting hurt cannot be bad, and besides, he is the one who will be helping Saiwoo get settled in the new world. She asks him in a soft tone, "What do you think about your home after all this time?" He says everything about it is so odd. She tells him that she didn't mention it before because of the limited time, but reminds him, when they made the contract after his return, that the causality which governs all dimensions applies to gods as well. Due to causality, I, coming from another world, cannot influence things on earth. He says, if you can't influence things on earth, how am I using your power, then? And you also just managed to heal Min-soo. She says, that's why you need to be careful. Causality is like a scale, we're permitted to the contract between the two of us, which means that there is bound to be something heavy on the other side of the scale. He asks her what it is, but she remains silent. He says that must mean she can't say it, and he starts to think about it, saying there's something he doesn't know that supersedes her. He sighs, saying that he can't even rest for a moment, and he guesses it's weird that monsters are appearing on Earth. But he says that it's fine with him. She is surprised he isn't angry and asks why he would be angry here in the first place. It's not her fault that Earth is like this, there's no reason for him to get mad, as he isn't that petty. She's touched and starts to smile and then laughs. He asks her what she thinks is funny, and she says nothing as she heads to leave. He says maybe he did get attached to her because he doesn't want her to leave quite yet and tells her that next time, they should take a picture together. Maybe followers will just walk in after seeing a picture of her. She says that she'll take that as a compliment on her appearance and thanks him. She wants to see him somewhere brighter than this next time, saying surely he knows what he needs to do. But he says he low-key doesn't. She says that he needs to build a temple for her to allow herself to materialize easily, of course, as well as gain more followers. As she fades out into a blue light, she says that she'll see him next time. Min-soo then jolts awake, and Saiwoo asks how he's feeling. Min-soo asks about the goddess, and Saiwoo says that she actually just left. Bro is in love and asks Saiwoo if he can meet her again. Saiwoo says that he was about to ask him if he wanted to learn about their Lord and Savior. The scene jumps to some time later as Saiwoo is in the car, looking at how he has 4 out of 10,000 believers now while his brother edits. He explains to us about the doppelganger incident that happened 2 days ago and how it ended with no fatalities but 12 injured. None of them had physical injuries, but they suffered mental pain due to the side effects caused by the mimics and doppelgangers, as they had brainwashed them. Min-soo, who was healed by Riemann after being a victim of the doppelganger, was hospitalized in the Seoul area, and Saiwoo is currently on his way to visit him with In-wook. In-wook says that it's a relief that Min-soo wasn't badly hurt and that he'll be discharged in a few days. He wonders what would have happened if the doppelganger had succeeded. Saiwoo says that there wouldn't have been any injuries if he had arrived a day late. In-wook asks him what he means by that, and Saiwoo says they would have all gone missing or been dead. It seems that demonic gates aren't common here. In-wook asks what he means by demonic gates, and Saiwoo explains that it's a demonic summoning gate that's a higher rank than that of an abyss gate. There's a reason that the doppelgangers were prideful skirmishers. When he was in Eden, a doppelganger offered a rural village as a sacrifice and summoned a giant demonic gate. The Pride Corps invaded Eden through that demonic gate, and the doppelganger that appeared here in Korea was probably planning on using the people in the dungeon as sacrifices to summon a high-level demon. The fact that they solved things before that happened is lucky compared to how it could have been. But there's one part that gets him a bit confused, why a demonic gate appeared in front of him just as he had returned from Eden. He wonders if it's purely a coincidence or if it's related to the causality that Riemann mentioned before. To think that something like this could suddenly occur, he needs to hurry up in gathering the believers. In-wook's plan of him hiding his powers as the main character got cancelled, but he wouldn't mind trying it again as it'll have a strong impact. In-wook then asks how he ended up doing that to Min-soo and the rest, but Saiwoo asks what he means. In-wook shows him his text, as Min-soo says that the Pope himself is proof that the goddess loves the world and that they should both work hard to serve the Pope. In-wook asks if he brainwashed him or gaslit him that hard, saying just because he is subs doesn't mean he can use him like that. Saiwoo just asks what kind of demon he thinks he is. In-wook makes a playful face and then tells him that he's a cult leader, and Saiwoo barks at him. Brotherly banter is top tier. Saiwoo says that he didn't think that Min-soo would fall for his belief in that short moment, and In-wook says maybe he fell for him. Saiwoo hits him on the head, saying that Riemann might be the goddess of mercy, but he is not. Saiwoo sighs, saying that he understands because the expression Min-soo had when he first awoke is the same kind of expression everybody gets when they see Riemann for the first time, it's that of shock. It was the same for him as well, as she's so beautiful that just seeing her makes you want to faint. She radiates holy energy, making it very clear that she is a goddess. Not to mention, Min-soo was directly treated by her, which allowed him to experience her power firsthand. He wonders how many people would be able to deny her presence after experiencing her holy miracle. In-wook says that he knew Min-soo folded easily, but to think the goddess is beautiful and kind sure does have him looking forward to it. It'd be great if she appeared on their channel. Siwoo says that she might be beautiful but asks why he thinks she's kind. He reminds In-wook that she basically kidnapped him. In-wook says that she's still taking responsibility and that he wants to meet her one day as well. In-wook then tells him that Min-soo just uploaded a video, as we see he got a notification for it. Hopefully, you get one for this channel as well. It's a video of Min-soo saying that he apologizes. It's him in the hospital, and he says that he is here to tell them about what happened 2 days ago. He wants to thank the person who saved him and his film crew, who almost died before they began the video. The scene jumps to the Seoul University Hospital. In-wook opens the door, calling out to Min-soo, who we see. Min-soo asks how he is, saying he heard he was sick. In-wook tells him he's fine, but Siwoo says he's hurt yet still showing concern for his brother. His personality sure is great, and so are his looks. He's still convinced that must be the #1 reason he has so many subscribers. Min-soo then asks Siwoo, but calls him His Holiness, wondering what he is doing here. Siwoo asks where he learned such a term from, and Min-soo says he looked it up on Wikipedia. In-wook says he's going to leave. Siwoo tells him to just call him by his name, and if he's uncomfortable with that, he can add Mr. to it. Min-soo continues asking how he could do that but calls him Pope, saying surely he won't prevent people from calling him that. Siwoo says to do as he wants. A bit later, Siwoo asks why he uploaded that video, and Min-soo says that he just felt like he was obligated to. The 2-minute video is pretty much just filled with his story about Siwoo and Ree-man. Although he didn't mention Siwoo's name, he called him his savior and said that the person he serves, the goddess, treated him herself. He continuously made praises towards them throughout the entire video. It's great but not completely satisfying, and Siwoo wanted to have a bit more of a dramatic production when telling the public about the order. Min-soo asks if he wants to see the comments on the video, and we start to see them. They wonder what exactly he's planning by making it seem so dramatic. Siwoo is surprised that they all think it's a concept, even when he was being genuine. Siwoo asks if that's what he was going for, but Min-soo says no, as he was being completely serious. He just wanted to tell the world about the Ree-man order. He didn't like seeing all those other strange cults, as all glory should go to their goddess. He's prepared to offer everything, even if that means donating his entire fortune, as long as it spreads Ree-man's name. Siwoo is completely baffled by how dedicated he seems, wondering if he's just crazy or if Ree-man turned him into this. A status window then appears, saying that the third believer, Min-soo, has confessed his faith, and Siwoo has obtained an achievement called Fanatic Believer, which gave him 20 divine points. Due to this, he has unlocked a special job called Inquisitor in the DLC page. Siwoo says this seems a little bit outdated, that there would be an Inquisitor in modern-day Korea. The job description will give him a 10% increase to all of his abilities when facing enemies of the Order, and the higher the special ability, Faith, is, the higher the rate of increase they will obtain. It will not activate for normal players or commoners who do not have an affiliated order. If he buys the job, he can give it to any of his believers. Siwoo sighs, saying he can't even buy it because he's broke, and Min-soo takes it as a different reaction, telling him not to worry too much. As a MeTuber, he thought this would be the reaction, so it doesn't matter. Those who will see his miracles will not suspect it. Asking if he remembers Semyoung, he says he has a video he prepared with him as well. Siwoo says he wondered why it said, for believers, and then thinks about it, telling Min-soo that he has an idea they could use and that he would like to tell him. He leans in close and whispers into his ear, but we don't get to hear it. Min-soo asks him if it's okay for him to receive an important role like that. Siwoo says, of course. Ree-man will be very happy. The scene shifts to some kind of altar, where people are praying in front of someone, saying they are receiving the Great One's will. The man appoints one of them as a warrior, saying he will use his heart and soul to participate in their grand plan and for their great will. As we see them all charging forward with weapons, they face a massive demon, saying, this is all for the order. The scene shifts to an amusement park. Siwoo asking his little sister if she thought it was fun. She says yes, the boat was what she enjoyed the most. She says it reminds her of when she was younger and they came together, and Siwoo is surprised she remembers that. His phone starts to ring, and he wonders who it would be on the weekend. She asks if he doesn't plan to pick up the call, so he answers it. It's none other than Dongshik, saying he has something to tell him and he's heading to his neighborhood, asking if he happens to be in the area. The scene shifts to the Ability Management Bureau, and Dongshik says that he made sure Sean got home safely and he's sorry for the unexpected visit. Siwoo says it's fine, and it was thanks to the free pass he got from him that he was able to spend time with her at the amusement park. Dongshik says he wanted to thank him for what he did in the Abyss Dungeon, and there were just so many things going on with the ability department that they were on red alert. Siwoo asks if that's why he wants to talk to him, and Dongshik says yes. Since they don't have the luxury of time, he wants to go straight to the chase, saying, this is a video that went viral on MeTube. It's the thing that we saw before and he asks Siwoo what he thinks about it. Saiwoo wonders, saying that it's a clear example of a cult. Dongshik says he knew it, asking if that's really what he thinks. Saiwoo says that it would probably be better to call them an industry colleague, and Dongshik laughs, saying he loves his honesty. Saiwoo then tells him that he was just joking. Poor Dongshik. Saiwoo asks what the point is of showing him this and if it's to stop him from making one of these crazy cults himself, asking if that's the goal. Dongshik starts to panic, saying that's not his intention and that the government and country aren't one of those entities that oppress religion. However, that changes when they are talking about the White Brilliance Order. Saiwoo asks what that is, and Dongshik tells him that's the organization he showed in the video. They are the main culprit of all the incidents that the ability department had to take care of. Then, he shows him a map, saying that the red indicates the sudden appearances of outbreak gates, and he's sure that he's already aware of what purple signifies. Those are the abyss dungeons, like the one he experienced. Outbreak gates and dungeons are not common occurrences within South Korea, and they're actually considered pretty rare, as they usually just appear without explanation of their type or difficulty. However, the phenomenon has occurred 4 times within the last 2 days. In most cases, the regional guilds would help out by activating reserve troops that they could cooperate with if needed. However, the White Brilliance Order takes care of them before they even get the chance. That has happened for all of these gates, excluding the one that he took care of. Saiwoo asks how this is possible, and Dongshik tells him that the White Brilliance Order is a new religious sect created within the last 6 months. They claim that they are able to take care of the gates before anyone else because their god has given them the power of foresight. Due to their extremely guarded nature, the Department of Ability Management has been unable to learn more about them. However, they have grown incredibly strong to the point where they can no longer be ignored. Some ominous foreshadowing of Lucifer behind one of the order members. Saiwoo is just surprised that they grew to this size in 6 months and says that there's something off about their foresight claim. He understands why he's here, for him. Dongshik wants him to take care of the White Brilliance Order. Dongshik clears his throat, saying, not to get rid of them, but rather, we want your cooperation. Since it seems that they have influence in the political and economic realm, it has been difficult for the ability department to investigate them. They already have plenty on their plates with the outbreak gates and dungeons, and it is crucial for them to obtain some help from someone like Saiwoo. Saiwoo says that seeing as the White Brilliance Order is using media, it's likely that they'll try to intrude on his territory as well. However, the government is on his side, so he'll make sure they regret coming to the surface. He tells Dongshik he'll cooperate with him regarding the order. Since the Abyss Dungeon and the White Brilliance Order may be related, he'll investigate it himself. Dongshik is surprised that he agreed to it so easily, saying they'll do their best to support his efforts. Although they weren't able to figure out all of his powers, the fact that he appeared in South Korea means that they can start dreaming about their future again. He bows his head, thanking Saiwoo for everything. Saiwoo says there's no need to do that, and he just wonders what Dongshik is so happy about. He can't really relate, wondering what happened in South Korea while he was gone for the last 5 years. We then hear one of Minsu's videos inside Saiwoo's apartment. He's talking about how a new hidden player used his skill to rip apart wyverns. There were no signs of incantations or skill delays, and he believes that the fire on his hands is called sacred fire. Even ordinary monsters, as well as the undead, seem to take incredible damage from it. He says that everybody must be curious as to who this person is, and that's why he'll be inviting him to the next video. They'll announce the broadcast date on their channel once everything has been finalized, and they'd appreciate it if they could hang on tight. Saiwoo is scrolling through the comments, and it's pretty much some people just flaming Minsu, saying that he's just going to try to scam them, while others are on his side. A status window then appears around Saiwoo, saying that thanks to the efforts of follower Minsu, many people have started to gain interest in him, and he gains 10 divine points. Saiwoo says that it looks like somebody with such a following has really given them a good opportunity to start. His plan is simple. After drawing attention to the hidden player through Minsu, he'll have the Department of Ability Management hold a press conference about an unmeasurable, irregular awakened. Rather, he needs to make sure to push the Reman order into the spotlight of public attention, and once he uses the traffic that Minsu produces, he'll start to expand and gain followers. Inwook says this sounds way easier than the plan of the main character who hides his powers, while Saiwoo just laughs evilly. Inwook asks if he really thinks that this stupid plan is going to work, saying it's not thorough or cool at all. Then their phones start beeping like crazy, and they both look down at them, surprised to see that there is an outbreak gate in Guro. It is a medium-scale outbreak near the university hospital, and everybody needs to evacuate except those who are C rank and above, as the monsters are confirmed to be undead. Inwook quickly runs, telling Sian that she needs to wake up as they have to leave. Saiwoo says that the hospital is exactly where Minsu is and that it must be causality, as it's too obvious for it to be a coincidence. Inwook comes out, telling his little sister that it's okay, and he tells Saiwoo that he can go ahead and leave as he'll take Sian to the evacuation shelter. Saiwoo says he never said he was going, though. Inwook says he told him his story in Eden when he helped neighboring countries, so he'll definitely go help since it's theirs. Then the doorbell starts ringing, and Saiwoo opens it to see that people from the ability department are going to escort his family to the nearest safe house and that Dongshik needs Saiwoo whenever he's ready to leave. Saiwoo looks as if he was really not planning to go, though, because he thinks it'll get worse with him being there because of causality. On his way there in the car, one of the people tells him that the monsters are mainly of the undead type, and the gate core has yet to be found. They have restricted access to hunters with at least C-rank qualifications. It has been 3 years since the Busan tragedy, where the last outbreak gate appeared in the city. We see an ominous red circle floating in the sky, and the man tells Saiwoo they've arrived. As Saiwoo is escorted to it, we see everyone is terrified and panicked. Saiwoo says this is literally just the embodiment of chaos. As he heads towards the gate, it gives him a warning, saying, ominous energy has been detected near the following gate. Saiwoo continues to walk forward as we see other hunters also on site. They seem to be talking amongst one another, and Saiwoo says this place is very different from the outside because everybody else is fearful, but they seem ready to fight. Dongshik tells him that they are guild-associated players, and he may not be used to how this is, but this is just how it goes. Until sector assignments have been completed, they can't start their operation, and this is especially true in urgent situations. Saiwoo asks what he means by sector assignments, and Dongshik says that for ordinary people, chaos gates are just catastrophes. However, for players, this is their bread and butter. Right now, the guild representative should be splitting up the subjugation area into sectors. Saiwoo says the world sure is getting more interesting as time passes, but to be honest, this actually disgusts him. He asks Dongshik if he remembers the conversation they had yesterday about how he would support his decisions if he helped with the White Brilliance Order. Dongshik says yes, and Saiwoo tells him that he's going to handle this gate on his own and that everybody else should focus on rescuing survivors. He'll take care of everything related to combat. Dongshik tries to convince him otherwise, but Saiwoo taps his shoulder, going straight into his transformation of poke mode. A holy radiance starts to envelop him, and everybody else is surprised to see it happen in front of their eyes. Saiwoo then stomps his foot as a purple aura starts to shoot up, creating some kind of aurora borealis, making all of the terrified residents start to feel calm by the sight. It's an active skill called Sanctification that Saiwoo uses to wrap around the Chaos Gate. While activated, Sanctification will be applied to all nearby areas, and demons and undead will have their power levels decreased. Anything weaker than Saiwoo will be deleted immediately. Another window then appears, saying that the governance of the dimension causality is watching him, as there is an ominous-looking vortex up in the sky above him. Saiwoo gets down on one knee and calls out to Riemann, telling her to unleash divine punishment onto those who try to destroy the peace in this land. For the duty of defeating those who stand in his way, he will dedicate his body solely to her. Inside the hospital, people screaming as the undead start to make their way through it. Min-soo with a sword and some other people running in front of him. He decides to fight, swinging his sword and cutting one of them in half. He asks if they still don't know where the dungeon boss is, and the other man says the youngest went to track it, but he's not back yet. Min-soo says they can't just wait here, they're going to have to find the boss themselves. It's already difficult enough, and if the gate's difficulty goes up, they won't be able to do anything. The other dude says there's no end, asking how long they have to endure this for. He bets the guild guys are fighting over territory, and the Department of Ability Management isn't skilled enough for this, asking if no one is going to save them from the undead. Min-soo says they should just hold on a bit longer, he's sure there will be help for them. The dude asks who, and Min-soo tells him he knows somebody. As they get to the door, they open it and head inside. One of the men says he needs to go to the rooftop ASAP. Min-soo quickly runs up and opens the door, and all three of them are surprised to see a whole horde of undead. There seems to be something else, as Min-soo is terrified when a status window appears in front of him. It says a mysterious terror is approaching, and that Lich, a follower of Pride, has appeared. He has found the core of the Chaos Gate, which must be none other than a Lich. Min-soo says that the Lich is the highest ranked undead, and its existence alone is a source of terror. As an A-rank hunter, he cannot do anything about it, while the rest begin to cry, saying it's over for them. Min-soo has the same sentiment, saying that all he can do is wait for his end. He drops his sword and falls to his knees, saying that if there is a miracle, it might change. He starts to beg for Riemann, hoping she will take pity on everyone. A bright light starts to descend from the sky, followed by lightning, as something crashes down onto the rooftop. We then hear Saiwoo telling Min-soo he did a great job and to leave the rest to him, he will handle it from here. Min-soo and the rest are surprised, but Saiwoo tells him that he saved these people, and this is great timing. Thanks to Min-soo's prayer, he was able to get to the rooftop at once. A system window says the system of Earth is proceeding with a causality congruence exam, and the chaos gate formed by unknown causes is breaking causality. As Saiwoo approaches the Lich, it asks him to restore the balance of Earth. Based on the exam, there will be no problem with him handling it. The Lich then says that Saiwoo has an annoying power, and he doesn't know where he borrowed it from, but he will not be able to defeat him with just that much. This land will soon become a sacrifice for the great pride, and no one shall brighten this darkness. Saiwu asks what it's yapping about as a status window appears again, saying the information of Sacred Dawn aggression has been synchronized across Earth and Eden. Now, it is an active ability, meaning all demonic energy within a specified radius will be eliminated. He stretches his hand out as a bright white light forms, and the undead start to be immediately purified. The Lich asks him who he is and how he has this kind of power, asking how someone could eliminate his army so easily yet still be the mere slave of a god. The entire area starts to develop in the Lich's power as it's turning into a necropolis. The status window starts to spam him with the red danger sign, saying the region is being cursed by the Lich and that causality has been destroyed. Saiwu is surprised, saying it's an advanced dark spell that paints everything around it with a curse and creates a space just for the dead. He can't believe it's happening right in the middle of Seoul. The Lich says that the powerless god he serves will not be able to save him or his people from death anymore and that he will make sure to take over the city. Saiwu asks if he wants to die for calling his god powerless, saying he was going to let him live because he was curious about what he had to say, but he guesses that was just not worth it anymore. As he sticks his hand up, a power starts to drop. The Lich asks what kind of useless god he serves when his power seems so faint. As Saiwu leaps up into the air directly in front of him, he punches the Lich straight down into the ground, almost purifying him instantly. The Lich asks what this is, saying this isn't how his fate was supposed to end, and Saiwu says, fate is for people who are alive, not for corpses. The Lich says that he sees now that it was him, the one who killed the doppelganger and the mimics, asking how dare he ruin the plans of the Great One. Saiwu raises his foot, saying he talks way too damn much, and starts stomping the life out of the Lich. The Lich laughs, saying, even if he kills him, his curse will continue to eat away at this land, and it will soon become the city of the dead anyway. As his soul starts to float up, Saiwu crushes it before he can continue yapping because he is tired of it. The status window then appears, saying he has defeated the gate's core and fulfilled all the conditions to clear the Chaos Gate. But Saiwu says that the Lich is right, and that's what's really pissing him off. A place that has once been corrupted by a necropolis will become a land of the dead where nothing can be born or created, and at this rate, this breach will become hell on earth, always producing the undead. There is a skill he could use for this situation, but it's the one skill he never wanted to use because it's unnecessarily cringy, and he doesn't know if he can bring himself to do it. He starts to think about the White Brilliance Order, saying it's whatever and that they should look forward to the show he is going to give them. The window tells us that he's about to use a skill called Wings of Purification, and then the giant vortex in the sky starts to close as causality is going to stay silent about his powers, allowing him to purify the necropolis. A bundle of 8 wings start to grow out of Saiwu's back as he ascends into the skies above the hospital. Everybody stretches their hands out toward some of the feathers that begin to fall on the ground, and even Manhwa and Dongshik are speechless as Saiwu starts to give off a severe heavenly aura. The number of followers starts to skyrocket as he goes from 13 to 167, all the way up to even 1,807, as everybody witnesses Riemann's powers in front of them. Everybody looks up at the hospital, seeing the heavenly figure as even more feathers start to descend from his wings. The scene shifts to a conference as Dongshik says it's time for them to start. He introduces himself as the head of the Department of Ability Management and says that he will begin the briefing. The gate suppression was executed as follows. A gate was assumed to appear at Guro University, which it did, and a team from the Department of Ability Management arrived on site. The perimeter was secured, and civilians were evacuated. A little later, Saiwu, who had arrived at the scene, exterminated the Lich, which was the core of the Chaos Gate. Currently, the emergency disaster situation has been completely resolved, and the following will be an official statement from the government of the Republic of Korea. They say that Saiwu returned to Earth through the recent Han River Park C-42 gate. He is the figure featured in the hidden player videos trending on social media. Since Saiwu's abilities have not been measured by a magic energy measuring device, it is impossible to determine the extent of his strength, but they believe that after witnessing his power at the riverbank and at the hospital, even the other awakened soldiers who witnessed it have concluded that he is indeed a returner of at least a disaster rank. They say if he is a returner and a disaster rank, that means he is an irregular, which means that an irregular has appeared in Korea, and they need to hurry up and contact the director. They now declare that they have possession of an irregular returner. Saiwu smiles at the camera and introduces himself, saying he is the leader of the Riemann Order. Everybody wonders if he is religious, and he says he will first explain what kind of religion the Riemann Order is, starting with what happened when he went to Eden. After a whole lot of talking, he is pretty much at the end, and he says he returned to spend 10 years pouring his body and soul into the Riemann Order as its pope, asking if there are any questions. All over, different news agencies ask him how it feels to be the first irregular and if he plans on operating the order on Earth as well. He tells them yes. They continue asking him questions, asking if this was just a display for his missionary work, how this is different from any other religion or cult, and if the government and Department of Ability Management plan to support the order officially. Saiwu says he was wondering why nobody asked these questions to start with. He may have lived on Eden for 10 years, but as a fellow Korean, he hates cults as well. He says, of course, he understands their skepticism. However, he will demonstrate his strong faith through his actions. How strictly they respect and believe in their doctrine is a personal decision, and nobody will be pressured into joining his religion. While Siwoo says in his mind that he is definitely a remarkable cultist, the silence is deafening as nobody asks to join. Everybody else continues wanting to ask questions. Siwoo sees a guy in the back raising his hand politely, and Siwoo says he can tell he is a potential zealot just by looking at him and asks him specifically what his question is. He thanks Siwoo for giving him the opportunity, saying his name is Seo Taeho, and he is from Gyeongga Daily News. He has a big personal interest in the order. He asks what future activities it will involve. Siwoo says, in order to maximize accessibility and public appeal, the Reman Order will start posting on MeTube. They don't have a channel name yet, but he thinks it would be good for everyone to suggest names to them too. Seo thanks him for the answer, saying he'll definitely make sure he takes part, and Siwoo thanks him as a future zealot. After a bit, Dongshik says it's time to end the conference here, and they can continue to ask him questions later. The status window then alerts him that he has gained more than 10,000 believers now and has completed the main quest. There are new items available in the store, such as the baptism trade and the special role, missionary. There is also a new main quest called Expand the Congregation. We see he has a total of 2,500 points to use as well. While his order has a lot of popularity, it's not religious devotion yet, so he needs to continue spreading the word of the gospel. The next day, Siwoo is sitting on his couch reading the news. While others say that if he sealed an undead-type gate, he's at least an S rank, others continue to say that it's just the government's ploy. Siwoo asks his brother if he looks evil, and Inwook says no, he just looks very religious. Siwoo asks if he looks like a bad guy then, and Inwook says he comes off as lacking a sense of distance, like he really lacks the holiness of a believer. Aside from the wings sprouting from his back, he doesn't really come off as holy, and he even kind of looks like a cult leader on the news too. He says if he just continues flapping his wings, he'll get a ton of believers. Siwoo tells him to shut up, but Inwook continues, saying if he combines that with the magical girl transformation, it would look great. Siwoo says it does sound pretty effective, but it would be hard to do often. Inwook asks why. Siwoo tells him that before he can use his skills, something called the causality congruence exam appears in front of him. He says he has a scale where, if he attempts to cause miracles above a certain limit, he'll go through an evaluation. If he doesn't pass the exam, he'll be penalized through the system. That means he may not be able to use his abilities as he wishes, and it would be best to hold off on using large-scale divine skills like wings of purification. Inwook asks if he's okay with the hate comments, saying he looks way calmer than he expected. He asks if he's not frustrated by the people that don't believe him. Siwoo says it's because he's in a rush that he talked about the order so early on. He wouldn't want to believe in this kind of cult-like religion either, but through his activities as an irregular, his credibility will rise. The time will come when the Reman Order has a great image, and it'll just be seen as another guild. Slowly but surely, Korea's prejudices against other world religions will disappear. And if it's just this much, it's not a bad start. It's actually better than what he anticipated, Inwook says. He seems to be a lot more positive after coming back from Eden. A window then appears, saying that the store has been updated with new items. Siwoo seems surprised, and Inwook asks what he's looking at. He's looking at the missionary role, and the only condition is to possess at least a doctrinal interpretation of level 10. It permanently raises listening believers' faith status points in proportion to the missionary's faith, and it costs him 1,500 divine points. Siwoo says it's a special role he's been waiting for, and it's much more important than the Inquisitor role that appeared in the store last time. He wonders what this is, as the condition seems a bit odd because it's asking for doctrinal interpretation. His face planted on the couch, and Inwook asks if there's anybody else in Korea that knows the order better than he does, if anybody else knows the order's doctrine other than him. Siwoo tells him he's too tired to speak. He explains to us that a doctrine is a religion's identity. A missionary that spreads that doctrine plays the most important role in expanding its congregation, and they are the people he needs the most right now. Inwook continues joking with him, saying he should just flap his wings around, and Siwoo tells him to shut up and get out. As soon as he does, another status window appears, saying, due to the increase of believers in the order, the range of causality permitted to his deity will increase. Reman is overjoyed and grants him an oracle. She then starts to chime in through some phone-like device, asking if he can hear her. He's surprised and screams, and she says that means he can. Inwook thanks her for taking care of someone like his brother. Siwoo asks what he's saying, but Reman laughs, asking if that was his little brother just now. She continues laughing, saying that it seems like he gets along with his family well. As Siwoo is now walking outside, he says that she's only saying that because she didn't see how his eyes widened at the opportunity to make fun of him. He asks if she's contacting him because something happened. She says that thanks to his hard work, the number of believers has increased, and now she can contact him. He has worked really hard, and now she'll be able to help him with running the order on Earth as well. She says that he was such a busy pope that he didn't know her doctrine. He freezes up, asking how she knew this. She says that she told him when he first came to Eden that she would always help him, and she's come up with a solution to help him this time as well. He says, it seems like she sure is cute after all, and then asks her what she has prepared for him. She says that she just made a deal with the system in dimension and passed the causality exam, so the status window should appear in front of him soon. On the window, it says that upon purchasing the special role, missionary, he may spend an additional 1,000 points to dispatch one missionary from Eden. He's surprised because this means he can bring another person from Eden. He says that it's going to be no different from how she kidnapped him and brought him there. She says, calling it kidnapping in his case would be right, but this time it isn't. He asks if she's just a serial kidnapper, and she says that he's just being unfair, she picked them out from a pool of volunteers. He asks if it means that the missionary has already been decided, and she says, of course, as they'll go through a chaos gate tomorrow. He asks, what kind of one-day shipping deal is this, but purchases it anyway, saying that he'll go ahead and buy it. The status window thanks him for buying it and says that the first missionaries received the Pope's call and confirm that they'll be coming from the coordinates of the Chaos Gate. Siwu sighs, he didn't think the missionary problem would be solved like this. He thanks Riemann, saying she really helped him out there. She says, no problem. He asks her who it is, saying it should be somebody he knows. She laughs, saying, that's a secret, as a surprise is the most exciting kind of gift to get. He then starts to think about it, asking who would even come. He starts to sweat nervously. Regardless of who the hell it is, every single one of the options he thinks it could be would be extremely concerning to have on this planet.
The scene shifts back to the bureau as Dongshik asks Siwu about Gate C51 which appeared in Anyang. He tells him that it has already been assigned and he doesn't think they can help with this one, as the Department of Ability Management could face backlash from awakened alliances nationwide. Siwu says he thought everything would go smoothly with Riemann sending a missionary, and he asks Dongshik if there's anything he can do. Dongshik says that he could have made a deal if it was a smaller guild, but C51 was taken by a massive guild called the Goblin Guild, which is ranked 4th in the entirety of Korea. Since they're sponsored by the Yuzon Group, it will be difficult to convince them if the gate drops items or money. Since Gate C51 is a C-ranked gate, it seems the guild has decided to use it for training purposes. Dongshik asks him if he can tell him why he needs C-51, and Siwu bites his thumb, saying this is going to complicate things. He says that to facilitate his missionary work, the goddess is supposed to send a missionary from Eden and laughs, saying they're planning to come through that gate. Dongshik is surprised that it's going to be a person from the other side. Instead of being a returner, it will be the opposite, as it will be their first time in Korea. He tells him that this complicates things heavily, as there are issues if an outsider in the guild were to meet up. Until now, all humanoid monsters that appeared in Korea were extremely strong and had a clear hatred for humanity, resulting in incredible rewards and experiences. Siwu asks what he's saying, and Dongshik says that even if the outsider isn't a monster, it's just going to go bad. Siwu asks if he's trying to say that if his colleague were to make contact with the Goblin Guild, a war may break out. Dongshik says, yes. He asks Dongshik if he can please share his intentions to visit with the Goblin Guild, as he thinks he's going to have to take care of this personally. The scene shifts to the gate, which is at a high school in Anyang City, as a whole lot of guild members start running around. Siwu gets out of his car, saying that the purple sky and everybody rushing around really gives off an apocalyptic vibe. A man then approaches him from behind, thanking him for waiting, saying he was running around after ordering the newbies. He introduces himself as Choi Seojin, the leader of the Goblin Guild. Siwu shakes his hand, saying he can tell the amount of mana he possesses is massive. He introduces himself back, he's the strongest player he's seen until now, asking if this is the level of S-rank hunters. He thanks him for agreeing to meet on such short notice. Seojin says it's an honor to meet an irregular and calls him the Black Priest. Siwu laughs, saying it's his pleasure. A status window appears as a red aura starts to spew out from Seojin. It tells him that the opponent's mana is pressuring him over and over. Siwu says he thinks this greeting is a little too much for him. Seojin stares at him while Siwu's status window then says that due to his level of resistance, there is no effect on him. Seojin gets close, saying he's now interested in the order, asking if he's accepting followers, as he was hoping to find someone he could place his beliefs in. Siwu says that there are always open spots for new followers, especially if it means gaining a famous follower like Seojin. Seojin laughs, saying that he's pretty honest. He heard the story on the way here, and it seems like Siwoo is interested in his gate. His tone shifts as he sounds a little agitated but says that he'll do anything to fulfill a request from an irregular. And it's just a C-rank gate, he adds. However, the gate must have something amazing if someone like him came here personally. That's why he was a little pissed off when he heard the news. He raises his foot as aura starts to float around it, and he says that it may not seem like it, but then he stomps it right in front of Siwoo, saying that they are the third-ranked guild now. Asking if he thought they would just give it up because he asked them to, and if he's looking down on them all because he's an irregular, doesn't mean he can get away with everything. Siwoo realizes now exactly what Dongshik meant, as he recalls Dongshik saying that Seojin is pretty spontaneous and to be careful of his sudden mood changes. He'll tell him a little secret about dealing with him, as he's the only one who's mentioned this before. He managed to get through 5 years of him with this tactic. Siwoo puts his hands together and starts to say that he's heard all the stories of the Goblin Guild and how skilled they are in battle. He's never experienced how players of Earth fight before, and he would love to witness the combat of the great Goblin Guild so he can learn. Seojin immediately switches tones, saying he wasn't expecting this from a member of the clergy, and the aura around the gate starts to get tense. The window says that 10 minutes before the appearance of the gate, the manhwa has started to envelop the area. Seojin says if he had the choice, he'd like to fight Siwoo right now, as he likes his attitude and his way with words. All Siwoo can think of is, this dude likes people sucking up to him. But he doesn't care, as long as he can make it into the gate. As for what comes after, it's not like it matters, nothing goes according to his plans anyway. And since they're also well prepared for the C-rank gate, it means that he can take the chance to understand how players deal with them. Seojin says that these guys are his pride and joy, even with those newbies in the mix. Siwoo says he can tell who's more experienced and who isn't. Seojin says his kiddos have proven their skills, and he's sure they'll get used to things soon. Siwoo then asks him if he doesn't have any players in charge of healing, and Seojin tells him that he might not know this, but healers aren't common. Most hunters with healing abilities are considered a rank, and even the shady doctors cost a fortune. Siwoo says this means there's a severe lack of healers, and maybe this could be a good chance for the order to find its place. The Chaos Gate finally starts to open, and a quest is then given to Siwoo, pretty much telling him about the missionary on its way over. He needs to safely meet with the missionaries and extract them from the Chaos Gate, and if he succeeds, he'll get a holy artifact, which is a token of Riemann. Some trolls then begin to exit the gate, which is not the messenger he was expecting. People from the Goblin Guild start dealing with the trolls, but it seems as if there's a lot of arguing going on. Siwoo asks Seojin if he shouldn't go and give them a hand. He says he's sure his elites will come back from anything, asking if he's worried about the noobs. Some people just joined them because they trust them, and they won't let them die in an accident. Siwoo says it looks like he's loyal and that he would have been perfect as a mercenary if he had been born in Eden. He thought Seojin was just a guild leader with money, but it looks like he just judged a book by its cover. The gate then begins to expand, and as they get ready for combat, they're surprised by something. All the trolls are coming out with blood all over their bodies as if they're being chased, and they look scared. They start to swarm out towards the adventurers, and one of them runs over to Seojin, saying that they're being chased by something. Siwoo has an "oh shit" face, and Seojin's aura starts to get released, asking him if this is who he's been waiting for. Siwoo says yes. Seojin says that the power is incredible, it's been a while, and he can't believe this. Last time, Siwoo took care of a lich by himself. Now he's planning to take care of this thing, and he's sorry, but this one is his. Siwoo wants to tell him that he's completely misunderstanding this but decides Seojin won't listen to him anyway. Then he has a different thought. He wonders who it's going to be. As a troll's head fly out of the gate and plop onto the floor, a man steps out. We are introduced to another follower of the Riemann Order named Leo Ruman. He is the leader of the Riemann Order's doctrinal study group and the man who claimed the position of archbishop at the young age of 29. He is incredibly straightforward, but the title that represents him best is the Mad Dog of the Order, as he forces the principles he has made. He's low-key a psycho, and Siwoo starts to sweat nervously, wondering why it had to be this guy. Seojin runs in, saying that this is perfect and he'll deal with this. Leo looks up towards him and catches Seojin's punch right in the middle of the air, creating a shockwave. Leo's face doesn't look strained at all, but his hand's shaking a tad bit. Seojin is just surprised that his punch was blocked so easily. Leo swings his hand, sending Seojin flying backward, right past Siwoo. Siwoo realizes now that he's completely screwed because he has no way to explain this. His guild members wonder if they just witnessed their leader's murder. They then send a couple of them to go check on Seojin's condition, while the rest need to block the boss, because if they don't, the surroundings are going to get destroyed. Leo calls them all out, saying they need to stop with this meaningless fight, and he doesn't want to fight them, as Riemann would be sad. Seojin sighs, saying Leo sure is shameless, as he planted a rancor into the ground so quickly. He feels sorry for Dongshik, asking how he's supposed to face him after this. Leo spots him and immediately calls him, His Holiness. Leo gets on his knees, bowing to him and giving him a very formal greeting, saying that he's glad to see His Holiness, the Pope, the first apostle, and the sole proxy of Riemann. Siwoo asks him when he learned Korean, and Leo says it's a favor that Riemann bestowed upon him. She told him to use this beautiful language to spread the good word. Siwoo couldn't believe how detailed she was and made a blank expression, asking what he was doing as soon as he arrived, saying that this was a pretty bad accident. Leo says that he was too dangerous of a figure to have been left. Siwoo says that he should have thought about the situation as someone who lives here, asking how he's going to face Dongshik after this. Just then, Seojin bursts out of the ground. Siwoo turns, surprised, as Leo just readies himself to fight again. Seojin lands on the ground in a superhero pose. We get a little bit more of an understanding of the archbishops. They must stay faithful to the doctrine and have a noble character, sacrificing themselves for others. It is an honorable position that one can only rise to after going through the process and being worshipped by man. However, Leo was an exception. The two armed organizations that represented the order were the Battle Priests and the Holy Knights. Leo was the leader of the Battle Priests and was a hero who brought victory to their battles against demons countless times. Leo tells Siwoo to step aside, as there is no need for him to waste his energy on something like this. Siwoo tells him to shut up. He tells Seojin he's sorry for not informing him in advance, but Seojin just tells him to step aside. Things are getting fun now, and he doesn't want to be blocked. Siwoo says this is Leo, a bishop in his order, and there's been a big misunderstanding. Seojin says that he is aware that that monster-like bastard is not an enemy. However, a man's dream is fulfilled by facing those who are strong. Sometimes, dreams are more valuable than your life. Siwoo wonders what kind of battle junkie this is, calling him a psycho, only for Leo to say that the brother is spreading the good word. He says that having warriors like him is exciting for Earth, and if Siwoo allows him, he would like to show the power of one of the great warriors of the Riemann order to a warrior of Earth. Siwoo says he can't believe this dude's also a psycho. Seojin closes the gap, saying they're not children and asking why they need permission to fight. They start brawling with one another while Seojin laughs, saying, "This is fun." Siwoo's expression slowly turns to that of the meme of the dog's house burning, being like, "This is all right." He then grabs onto Seojin by his collar, does the same with Leo, and slams them straight down into the ground, asking them how their dreams taste. All are their legs sticking out of the ground. A status window then appears, saying that the Chaos Gate has been destroyed, his side quest has been completed, and he has received the reward from Leo. We then hear Dongshik asking why he committed a double homicide, saying that he thought he was just going to talk to Seojin. Siwoo looks away from him, saying that he tried. We hear Seojin laughing, saying that it's fine. Dongshik says they should pretend that nothing happened today and that everything that came from the gate will go to the Goblin Guild, asking if they both agree. Shoun just continues laughing, saying, it's okay for men to hit each other. Siwoo tells him he should go spend his energy clearing gates instead. Seojin says he has something to offer him and asks how an alliance between the Goblin Guild and the Riemann Order sounds. Siwoo says they're not a guild but a religious order. Seojin then reminds him that even so, he has two awakened who can overwhelm an S-ranker with ease. As Leo looks embarrassed, Seojin then tells him not to forget that there are many eyes on him. Additionally, some of them are already on the move, and he could feel some burning passion because the two of them for the first time in a while. He tells him to take all the time he needs to worry about the alliance, and then he takes his leave, driving away. Dongshik says they'll be registering Leo as an awakened and getting his identity verified, and tells Siwoo he can take his leave too. Siwoo laughs, saying he always causes him inconveniences, and Dongshik sheds a single tear, thanking him for recognizing that. Siwoo says once he earns some money, he should buy Dongshik some gifts. That night, back at the apartment, Leo ate dinner with Siwoo and his family. From Leo's perspective, he sees the rice as a delicacy, as well as every other piece of food on the table, which ranges from soybeans to Granny's fish fillet that has been lightly roasted, soy sauce, and white kimchi. Leo thanks them for the impressive food, and Inwook tells him to enjoy it. Then, he starts whispering with Siwoo, saying he knew the missionary would come directly to their place, but surely it would have been better to just order chicken, as all of this is hardcore Korean food that he might not like. Siwoo says it's a feast, and Leo tells him the food smells great. He's heard a lot about Inwook from Siwoo, including how he's a great cook. Inwook is embarrassed but thanks him. Seeyeon says he is a great cook, asking if he's heard about her too since she's never met him before. He says, "Of course, I've heard a lot about you." He often said he has a very cute sister. She tells him that he looks cool and tall. Siwoo looks over, wondering what kind of NPC conversation they're having, but says Inwook's reaction made sense and that Seeyeon is a lot calmer than he expected. Leo finally takes a bite of the food and says, "This is straight gas." He would love to learn how to cook this from Inwook later. Inwook is so touched that somebody enjoyed it this much that he laughs, telling him to eat all he wants as he'll teach him everything. He asks what he likes the most, saying that he can make all types of dishes, and they continue having their happy dinner time. Siwoo says that his family from Eden and Korea have met, and this feels quite surreal. Since it was awkward to find a place to stay in Korea, Leo decided to stay in his granny's empty room. Siwoo contacted Granny to ask for permission, and she said that she made a friend in America, so she'll stay there for a bit longer. But he wanted to introduce Leo to her as well. The next morning, the token that he received from the quest, a necklace with a memorable pistachio-colored gem, which is a holy relic that Riemann has personally blessed. He says that now that he has obtained this, her intentions have become very clear. The status window then reveals more information about the main quest, saying that he has obtained a new holy relic with the power of the goddess. Through a missionary who came from Eden, a new goal has now appeared for him. He needs to construct a shrine for those who have become believers of the order. He'll get 500 points, and his baptism trait will level up by 1. Siwoo looks happy, saying that it's finally time. Siwoo explains that to cement an order's position, a shrine is a crucial piece. It's a place for people to pray to their God, a gathering place for followers to connect and deepen their understanding of the gospel. This being the main quest makes it look like the Riemann order is going to head in a good direction, setting its roots on Earth. Leo tells Siwoo to lift his feet. He does so, and Leo cleans the floor using a vacuum cleaner. Siwoo says that something seems off as he's watching this priest clean. He asks him how he learned to use a vacuum cleaner, and he says that Seeyeon taught him. She also gave him a small booklet, the manual. He's even folded the laundry, as Inwook took the time to teach him. He also taught him how to use the machines called the washer and dryer. Since he is here to serve His Holiness, the Pope, this is the least he can do, telling Siwoo not to worry. Siwoo says that even though Leo looks like he could kill a bear with his hands and has the combat prowess to take down an S-rank hunter, he's surprisingly serious about housework. That is what you should call a perfect butler. Although he planned to let him have his independence, it's best to keep him here. He wraps his arm around Leo, saying he was his right-hand man on Eden. Leo tells him that he shall fulfill his role to help him. Siwoo says that he should finish up cleaning and get ready to leave, as Inwook should be back within the next 30 minutes with some clothes for him. Leo asks why they're heading outside, and Siwoo says it's time to counsel the new believers. They head to an office building in an area called Mapo, and we hear Min-soo saying he should have come to visit himself and that he's so sorry about having them come here. Siwoo says he had no choice since Min-soo was busy, and it's only fair that those with more time should travel instead. Min-soo says even though he doesn't think it's right to force the Pope to come all the way here, Siwoo tells him it's fine, as he gets to visit other parts of Seoul, which makes him happy. But a 5-story building near Hongdae is quite amazing. Then he remembers that he's a MeTuber with 5 million subs, saying that the building is quite impressive. Min-soo says that since they're considered a guild-approved company, they have some financial backing. Although MeTube is their main source of content, they also participate in dungeon conquest and gate subjugation meetings, and they make more money from guild consulting than MeTube. They now have some coffee, and Siwoo asks Leo what he thinks about it. Leo says he's widening his palate and is interested in learning more about food on Earth. Siwoo says that it looks like he's going to fit right in, and Min-soo is glad they like it, saying that he can get them more if they need it. Siwoo then tells him that this is the person he mentioned before, the missionary from Eden who was sent to spread the word of God. He introduces him as the Archbishop. Min-soo starts freaking out, but Leo says that he's glad to meet a fellow brother on Earth and introduces himself again. Min-soo takes the time to do so as well. Leo then notices something, saying, "It seems like you've already met with Riemann," as he can see her signs around his heart. Min-soo says yes, and although he wasn't able to meet her directly, she treated his sickness and blessed him with warm light. Siwoo wonders if Min-soo is on the brink of developing divine powers, saying it looks like his belief is more serious than he thought. He tells Min-soo that since everybody's met each other, they should get straight to the point. He reaches into his jacket, pulling out the token of Riemann, which will allow him to claim the nearby land as a sanctuary. But the shrine for the order must be established within the sanctuary as well, and according to causality, forcibly claimed land will not be accepted. Min-soo is happy to see it, as he can feel Riemann's power from it. Siwoo tells him that it's Leo who brought it over from Eden. He tells Min-soo about the plan to make a shrine in the name of the order. Min-soo is surprised by this and says that he'll go ahead and start gathering funds from the management support team, but Siwoo says there's something more important than money, although that's a big step too. They don't have a location for it. He doesn't have any ideas on how to make the Riemann order shrine approachable to the public, which is why he came here. Min-soo asks if he has any places in mind. Siwoo says no. Min-soo starts to think about it and asks them both if they could just wait for 10 minutes. The scene shifts to a PowerPoint presentation about the shrine project planning, and they're both surprised to see such a presentation so quickly. Siwoo asks Min-soo if he prepared this within the last 10 minutes, and he says that this is something he prepared ahead of time. Ever since he got rescued from the dungeon and Riemann saved him, he started considering it his duty to raise a shrine in her name. Siwoo can't believe he went so far just because of what happened to him, while Leo starts crying manly tears. Leo then stands up, clapping, saying this is such an incredible act of kindness and that he's sure Riemann will be very happy. He can't help but cry at brother Min-soo's beliefs. They start hugging one another, and Siwoo asks if they could just continue with the presentation. Min-soo clears his throat, telling them to have a look at this, which is a community vote. He says the community vote is something users commonly use. It allows the viewers to stay connected to their content, and on top of that, anyone can vote from anywhere, which is incredible. The fact that the public decided on the location means they're already ahead of other orders, and it will be easier to build an image of a religion that works alongside the public. Siwoo asks which places he has in mind, and Min-soo says that the first shrine for their goddess should take place somewhere special, telling him to look at the next slide, which is none other than Ground Zero. Siwoo recognizes it as Gwanghwamun, asking what the blue wall is for. Min-soo says that since he returned after 5 long years, he's sure the wall seems unfamiliar. This is what most people call Ground Zero. 5 years ago, it turned into the site of a dimension opening, and photography inside has been strictly prohibited. These pictures are from the past. Although they were able to destroy the core of the gate through countless sacrifices, during that process, the people at the center of the gate were unable to escape the mana pollution. After that, more gates started opening rapidly, and while they asked for help from foreign allied nations, the current government has been unable to solve this, leaving the area on its own. Siwoo can't believe something like this happened in Seoul. Min-soo explains that the walls consist of 5 total layers, including a layer of metal that can absorb mana. Only hunters ranked A and above can withstand the pollution and enter the area within the walls. Siwoo says that the intense collection of mana goes against the principles of this world, causing the pollution to destroy the status quo, which, of course, leads to destruction, as land polluted by mana is no longer able to hold life, just like the devastated city. He says there are 2 more ground zeros in both Daejeon and Busan. However, since this region is considered the first ground zero of Korea, it remains a painful chapter in its history, and he's sure everybody remembers the day it happened. Siwoo asks if that's where he wants to raise a shrine, and Minsu says exactly, because if they can do that, the order has much to gain. For example, salvation, hope, and comfort, and other icons such as those. Siwoo asks if it's even possible to raise a shrine on corrupted land, as he thought they said they couldn't. Minsu tells him they need to purify it first, just like how he purified the leech's curse at the hospital. He should ask Riemann for help, and he'll prove to him that this is possible. Sunho pretty much starts to tell him about the magic mine and everything else. Siwoo says he already heard about it from Dongshik and learned that the government has less power than he thought. Sunho tells him that it seems awakeners are bound to follow whoever will pay them the most. Siwoo asks him, "What are you here to offer me?" He looks over, waiting for his reply, and Sunho meets his gaze, saying, "For everything that you earn in Ground Zero, the Bureau will stand as a surety in exchange. Surely, they could use a bit of your power." Siwoo says he'll speak candidly to him. He plans to purify Ground Zero. In exchange, he'd like to receive the rights to a part of the land and have the construction of a shrine for the Reman Order be authorized. Of course, I'll make it so that citizens can go freely to and from. There are a lot of people who have fond memories of that place. With that, the Reman Order will solidify its position as a provider of support for the Department of Ability Management. Unlike how it's been until now, the Bureau will be able to take on irregulars, gaining the strength to push back against the big guilds. Sunho says, "The area is already outside of our control, and it's pure anarchy. Regardless of what happens to him, the government can't do anything about it. But if he were to purify that land of hopelessness, then no one will be able to oppose the legitimacy of his claim to a portion of its land." They shake hands, making the deal. Back inside, as the demonic energy starts to move toward them, the status window says that he has detected some hostility. Siwoo says, "There are around 30 people. It feels like I got the short end of the stick." Siwoo tells Leo that he didn't think their lives would be targeted so blatantly, asking what he thinks they should do. Leo says that the best way to do this is to try to talk to them. Siwoo says he finds it kind of funny that Leo is the one saying that, but Leo tells him that violence is always the last resort. Siwoo asks, "Should we try talking to them like you said?" He starts to call out to them, asking if they would like to talk. Of course, it's nothing but silence. Siwoo raises his foot into the air and then stomps it down, causing the nearby buildings and debris to shake violently. Some of the people expose themselves, and Siwoo says, "It would be nice if you came out while I'm still being kind. It would be a win-win. Or maybe you're all shy since you're wearing masks. They just came to survey the land for the construction of their shrine, as their goddess Reman loves peace dearly. As such, I would be so glad if you could get out of the way for us." Someone behind the mask, a man, tells them to step aside. Siwoo wonders if his peaceful calls for conversation worked, while Leo asks if he's serious. A man then steps up, saying he expected more because they were asked to take out some cult leader, but it turns out it's just a kid. Siwoo says, "I'm sure this dude feels good about himself because he's old as hell. He can tell that this guy is underestimating him. But first Seojin, and now this guy. Are S ranks really this common?" The man says that he hopes he can still talk like that when his limbs are cut off, as that's what they were asked to do. Siwoo then asks Leo if he thinks talking is still the way to go, and Leo says that he'll show him exactly what he thinks as he vanishes on the spot. He's already dashed in, hitting one of the men in the chest, only to grab another one and immediately put him over his shoulder and fold the dude like a pretzel. Rip, the dude is dead. Siwoo asks if he even gave them a chance to repent and tells him that people die when they're folded like that. Leo says that his mouth should still work, and the rest call him insane while Leo smiles at them. The man from earlier can't help but watch as all of his troops are just getting manhandled, and he wonders where the hell he came from. We learn his group is called the Butchers. This guy's name is Sepul. He says that these dudes had a fake MeTube channel, wondering if they were tricked, as there was no report about a large priest at all in it, and that this monster is at least an S rank, and a top-ranking one at that. He wonders if he was secretly trained by the government, but since he saw him bow his head to Siwoo, it means if he gets defenseless and holds him hostage, he can figure some way out of this. Sepul dashes off the nearby debris, leaping through the air directly towards Siwoo. Siwoo looks up, glaring at him, and right as Sepul thinks that he's got the advantage, Siwoo's lightning hits. Sepul starts to bleed out of his eyes and mouth. Siwoo used a skill called the Will to Defeat Evil, which detects all intent towards him. It then starts to list the evil deeds of Sepul, and it turns out that he has committed a lot: murder, robbery, even the killing of a minor, and 582 more counts of these violent crimes. Siwoo wonders how he became an S rank when he's just complete human trash. Sepul falls to the floor, bleeding everywhere, and begs for mercy. Siwoo says that a swift death would be too unfair for somebody like him, and he explains that his skill will to defeat evil tells him all of the evil deeds of those who come within his divine presence. It activates when the person who walks in is a true villain. He then starts to step on Sepul's fingers, breaking them as he screams, saying he'll tell him that it was the Jungok Guild, and they paid him to do this. Siwoo says it's obvious they sent him over here to test him, and surely he figured that out as well. If they were sure he faked everything, they would have sent a proper S-rank hunter and not some garbage. He grabs him by the hair, asking if it hurts, and Sepul starts to beg, saying he's sorry. Then, immediately, he starts to feel the holy presence of Siwoo and is surprised. Siwoo glares down at him, thinking about what to do. He slams his head into the pavement, saying that forgiving him is not his job and putting him up on the scales of judgment in front of God is. A status window then says the first synchronization from Eden has been completed, and he can use the command user information to check his stats. The dimension Earth has labeled his characteristic as chaotic, and as such, Earth has lifted the causality restrictions. The second update is now starting in his system. He has the title of the Black Pope and 32 others, and his job is the Apostle. We can't see the levels of his stats or skills besides Faith, which is level 7, and he has 95 active skills and 46 passive skills. Siwoo says nothing changed, all this did was add more stuff to his character panel. It's probably good that his restrictions on causality were lifted, but the second update thing is beginning to bother him. Leo says that the weaklings have arrived, and Siwoo calls Leo mean, saying that they don't even seem like they want to fight. As the people ask him if he was sent by the government and why he's here, Siwoo looks around only to spot an area where the mine is, saying that means he doesn't have to look for it anymore. Based on the magic that's on the surface, it must be buried there. Leo says that a medium-sized magic tower uses about 700 kilograms of magic stones a year, and 7 tons of top-quality magic stones will be a great resource. Siwoo says he can also sense demonic energy from it and explains that magic stones are the congealment of the purest form of mana. Magic stones are like pure water, so if it's combined with divine power, it transforms into a divine stone. Similarly, if it's combined with demonic energy, and he senses the same demonic powers as the lich from this mine, that energy is that of the demon king of pride, and that corruption is an old one. This is the demonic energy he sensed ever since entering Ground Zero. Siwoo asks if anybody entered this mine recently, and one of the dudes says he doesn't know. Then a woman yells, saying not to answer him. Siwoo says they must be busy with power struggles right now, but that person is dangerous, and they must have missed it while fighting amongst themselves. Since he's heard this is a lawless area, it means if he just beats them up, he can take the mine for himself. Siwoo says the person definitely must be nearby, and he wonders if they are from the White Brilliance. They all sit there speechless, and Siwoo says he isn't going to fight and that this lawless land just interests him. He was just wondering if he could do anything here. As he pulls out Reman's token, it starts to shine. He says that it's responding to the demonic energy, and when they ask him what he's going to do, he puts it to his chest. The status window appears, saying he can declare a sanctuary using the item, and asking if he would like to declare one. He raises his hand, saying this is now a sanctuary, and the area is now turned into one as Reman's token starts to turn into a different color and shoots a beam up into the sky of pure holy energy. Everybody can't help but even feel it themselves. Leo gets down on his knees and prays as the area beneath Siwoo and the others starts to turn into a grassy field, completely healing this area of the contaminated mana. Siwoo looks up, smiling, saying he's dedicated this land to Reman, and since that's what she wanted, as her servant he could not sit idly by. A status window then says that a sanctuary has been declared using the holy relic, and the following system of Earth accepts the holy artifact from Eden as a miracle. With the declaration of a sanctuary, the following area has been cleansed of demonic energy pollution. Siwoo lets out a sigh of relief, saying it's much easier to breathe now thanks to the energy being cleared. Reman says this is such an unfortunate place, and she never thought it would exist somewhere on Earth. As her form begins to descend, all dressed up, truly looking like a goddess, he tells her that it's quite unfortunate. Then he looks over, saying since Leo is calm, it seems like only he can see her. She says that she can vaguely see it, the dreams that were buried in these lands, and she thanks him for taking care of the gifts she sent through the boy. He says that she's the only one who would call the mad dog a boy. She says that's all he is to her though, asking if he knows how cute Leo was when he was little, and Siwoo says he'd rather not. She then grabs onto his hand, saying even so, she still likes him more. He tells her to stop with the act, asking why she came without a warning. She says that she wanted to personally give him a gift since he's been doing such good work, and there are some things that she can do only if she is here. He asks what she means, and she puts her hands together as a bright light starts to emit out of them. Immediately, some kind of fountain and a small tombstone begin forming. Siwoo is surprised, and she says that surely he can tell it feels warmer already, asking what he thinks. He says he agrees. Then he says this sight can't be taken as an ordinary gift, and he could sense her love and sincerity from it. She says that she hopes the dreams left here can have a warmer place to stay in, and she's sure that those who miss this place will think of this event as a miracle. Siwoo just can't help but feel that it's just like in Eden. Another building then starts to appear behind him, and it turns out that it is the real shrine, as it is much bigger than the little fountain we just saw. Siwoo is completely lost, and she asks what her real gift is, asking what he thinks about it. He says it's amazing. He's sure everybody will like it, and he can already tell that Leo is going to be crying about it. But he says that he has something to tell her. She says that it seems like he already figured it out, and she tells him to listen carefully to what she has to say. The last demon came. He defeated Lucifer, who transferred the soul pieces of the demon kings to the nearest dimension, which would mean Earth. The reason why Earth's system accepted a contract with an outsider like him could have something to do with the acts of Lucifer. He says that she's talking about causality. She says since Earth is not under her jurisdiction, there's not much she can do, so he'll have to figure out the details on his own. As she's sorry for the difficult request, she begs that he take care of this world. He asks if she's leaving already but looks up, saying that he guesses he should be used to it. He then says that was quite a surprise, and although it looks like he's accomplished all of his current goals, he can't help but admire how pretty the shrine is. He says that Leo is here to translate the Bible for them, and now they have a shrine for followers to pray at. The status window then appears, saying he has completed the main quest to expand the congregation. As a completion reward, the trait baptism has leveled up, and he has received 500 points. It congratulates him, saying with the creation of the first shrine of the order, he is one step closer to solidifying it as a major religion. From now on, he can manage the shrine using the command Shrine Management. Siwoo says it feels like he's doing something now. It also tells him that through the contract between dimensions, he can build different facilities using divine points, and the DLC store section of facilities has been updated. The scene shifts to none other than Minsu, Leo, and Siwoo on screen. Minsu says they are here at Ground Zero for a special episode, and it's his honor to be the first to show everybody how it looks now. He's sure they already know who he is with today, as it's none other than Korea's first irregular and the leader of the Reman Order. Siwoo says it's nice to meet them all, and it is an honor to be able to show them the first shrine. Turns out this is a live stream, and everybody just thinks that it's completely fake and starts talking about how they can't believe he fell for such a cult scam. Siwoo smiles, saying this is what the chat's all about. Somebody donates, asking Minsu who's behind him, saying if he's been kidnapped by a cult and is being forced to shoot this, to wave, to give them some kind of sign by using a carrot. Leo then whispers in Siwoo's ear, asking what the hell a carrot has to do with this. Siwoo can't tell him it's all because of him. Not sure what the carrot thing means. Can anyone explain? Siwoo and Minsu thank everybody for participating in the stream, saying that this is all thanks to the Reman Order. People in the chat are saying that they are happy to be able to see their faces, while others in the chat are saying he's lying and they just can't believe this. Wonder what kind of movie set this is, saying it's pretty. Some keyboard warrior starts typing in the chat, saying he is an expert on Ground Zero and that it is a region filled with demonic energy, causing it to be impossible for life to flourish. Yet this area is filled with flowers and grass, and as such, he can safely bet all of his remaining hair that this place is not Ground Zero. Siwoo asks Reman if she's reading this, telling her to make that dude bald, and tells them from now on, anyone can use the Seoul City app or register through their local community center to enter Ground Zero and Seoul. Also, they can learn the details through the Department of Ability Management website or their MeTube channel here soon. As the camera angle then shifts to a drone flying up in the air, There's a whole production team on set, and it slowly starts to elevate higher and higher into the sky above the shrine. Chat wonders what's going on, as it's now starting to look completely real. Even the Department of Ability Management Minister, Sunho, made an announcement saying that Siwoo has purified Ground Zero. Everybody starts to realize that this is real, but that's all of the reactions we get to see for now. Sometime later, a man is holding flowers. It's none other than Sunho, smiling and looking up. Siwoo says that everybody else has already left, asking if he needs something. Sunho says that he's always wanted to come back and he never thought he'd be able to return. Even though he agreed to this idea, he didn't believe it. He then looks at the small tombstone that Riemann made, asking him what it is. Siwoo says it's to comfort those who are sleeping here. He asks who did such a precious thing, and he says it's the person responsible for everything here. Siwoo starts to shake, asking if she's really coming over. Sometime later, Inwook says he's nervous, and Siwoo asks why, saying they're only launching the channel. Inwook tells him that he's prepared a lot for this, and Siwoo tells him that he did good and not to be nervous, as they officially uploaded their very first video and they have 43,000 subscribers. Siwoo says this is only after 1 hour of starting their channel. The first video is about Ground Zero. Comments are more so the same as they usually are, and then they're actually inside of a much different room. I believe they're at Ground Zero. Inwook says there are so many comments and most of them are just prayers. Siwoo says that's okay, as Riemann likes those kind of comments, asking Leo if he agrees. Leo says yes, as he loves taking care of those who wish big. Siwoo says it's reasonable, as they've taken care of so much recently. Inwook says that this is the very first time he's looking like a cult member. A status window then appears, telling Siwoo that a quest has appeared, as the main quest has expanded and is now called Preparation. It tells him that Earth is currently exposed to many dangers. In order to prepare for it, he must grow his order. He has 3 completion requirements. The first one is 50,000 official followers, which means that the follower has turned into mission request. 500 divine-type players choosing Riemann as their faith, and achieve a cumulative level of 15 between the ORD traits and facilities. He'll get 10,000 points for this. Siwoo wonders what it means by 500 divine-type players that choose Riemann as their deity. Then he asks Inwook if there are any other players besides him using divine power. Inwook says not that he knows, wondering if this means he's going to get 500 more followers from Riemann like he did Leo. He wonders what else the divine-type player thing means. And that is when everybody else on Earth starts to get a message from the status window, it even appearing in front of Minsu, that tells him that certain requirements are met and restrictions placed on divinity will be lifted on Earth. Earth will now prepare itself for the Age of Order, and players of Earth need to prepare themselves for this. On the news, a woman says that the cataclysm has just been announced, and in preparation for the changing world, they've brought quite a few people together to speak, even a bishop from the White Brilliance. The woman says there are already many players in their religion who have awakened due to the blessing of their deity. With divine power now available, she's sure they can all expect how much more important religion will be in their country. If they were to accept the Riemann order in these confusing times, it's only fair that their government also acknowledge their religion as an official faith as well. The reporter asks how the White Brilliance awakening works. She says that the method isn't anything special, only to believe in their God and that he will save people from weakness. Siwoo wonders if that means they really weren't using demonic powers, as they have divine players. He guesses that the Guru Gate and the other gate he had to deal with kind of showed it to him. He says that he doesn't think so, and there might be other organizations that are not the White Brilliance Order but are affiliated with demonic powers. Riemann tells him that she hasn't seen him this concerned in a while. He asks if it's easier for her to materialize while in the temple and apologizes for calling her out of the blue. She tells him it's fine, and he had a lot of people following him yesterday, so he must have worked really hard. But she's aware now that divinity is finally unlocked here on Earth. He tells her that the entire country is in chaos, and there are divine-type players now, though he doesn't know if it's true or not. A quick rundown on what divinity is. It refers to powers that not only followers of Riemann can exert, but the power to create miracles by anybody who has faith. The stronger the faith, the more the god is able to bless its followers with more strength. Riemann explains that like how the willpower of players is connected to their magical abilities, divinity is closely connected to the strength of the faith among the god's followers, and the awakened, in turn, use the powers to create miracles. A god's worth is dependent on the level of faith that can be invoked in its players, and a god without followers will disappear. Siwoo concludes that the Age of Order must be referring to the gods and wonders why there weren't divine powers on Earth before. She says it's the same reason why Earth wasn't granted mana, because the system placed restrictions on the potential of their people. He says they should have just removed all of the restrictions 5 years ago together when they first brought status windows, and she laughs like she wants to tell him everything but of course won't, because causality won't allow it. She smiles, confirming his suspicion. Riemann then starts to bless him, as all of his traits have been increased by 1 level for 90 days. She says that she could do at least this much for him, and he gets happy. She tells him to make her stronger too and asks what her little pope is going to do for her now. He says that he's going to go preach and get even more followers and asks if it's possible to get more people from Eden to come here, as large guilds are already trying to monopolize on the divine players. She says that she doesn't think so but will look into it. Siwoo sighs, saying that it can't be helped and he'll need to work Leo a little harder. She asks why he's laughing like that. He says that it's fine and that he can sleep when he's dead. She tells him to relax, poor Leo doesn't know what's coming. Siwoo walks up to the window and looks out of it, thinking about the Age of Order, saying if that message broadcast to all the players, then it means that the Earth will really go through some big changes. And he wonders what he can do right now besides maintaining the temple properly, what his next goal is. His phone then starts to ring, which startles him a little bit, and it's an emergency message, as there have been some orc tribes near Pyongyang that are marching towards the Gwangju. Siwoo explains that 5 years ago, when he disappeared, North Korea essentially ceased to exist as a nation due to the openings, and the northern part of the peninsula is now an unconquerable land of monsters. Wow, author just vanished a country with just few words. Anyway, according to the report, we then hear a familiar voice, as it's Seojin asking if all those damn pigs turned crazy at the same time. It's funny how they're all coming right now, asking Siwoo what he thinks while laughing loudly. Siwoo just doesn't know why he's sitting beside him as Seojin continues to laugh. Everybody else is silent. Siwoo says that since the Goblin Guild is a pretty large guild, shouldn't it be more fitting for him to be sitting next to the NAC? Seojin says that it's not his style to associate with asshats, and he's not with the NAC. Siwoo is more surprised by the fact that he is just a human vacuum cleaner. Seojin laughs, asking him if he wants to get some coffee after, as he has a lot of questions about divine power, asking if that's what he used to subdue him last time. Siwoo just wonders why he keeps calling him Pope. Kim Byung-soo then yells, telling Seojin it's not just the two of them in the room and to lower his voice. Seojin says that he's having a chat with his friend, asking him to do something if he has a problem, as Byung-soo is still mad about what happened before. Byung-soo says that's the problem with Seojin, he has no regard for social norms. That's why his guild keeps getting in trouble with the other ones. Seojin asks what the problem is and if there's anything he could even do about it. He starts to smile at Byung-soo, who is feeling mixed emotions of fear and annoyance. Seojin then sarcastically asks him if he's going on a date, saying his glasses look super cool, causing Siwoo to spit out his drink. Seojin says that it's funny to see the dude trying to look young, then continues mocking him. The door then opens, and we hear Sunho entering, saying it seems like they are enjoying themselves. He asks if he bothered them by being late. Seojin says not at all, but he can tell Sunho seems a lot brighter than usual. He says that he started drinking a lot of cider recently. Since they're all busy men, he'll get straight to the point. They have gathered here to discuss the plans for the descending orc horde. Orcs are nocturnal and operate in tribes. They are also hostile to other tribes, but for some reason, the 7 tribes have all united this time. This is exceptionally odd throughout the orcs' entire presence on Earth. According to their reconnaissance, there seems to be something pulling the orcs together. Siwoo says that he guesses it doesn't exist on Earth, but he's seen this a few times in Eden. The one born with the power to dominate all orcs, a monster that exists to channel the orcs' rage into a single outlet. He tells them that it's called an orc overlord. Suho says that is a pretty good description, and according to the reports, the overlord has over 100,000 orcs in its army. Alert levels have been elevated to State 1. Seojin and Byung-soo are completely caught off guard that there are that many orcs. Sunho continues, saying that orcs carve tribal tattoos onto their arms, and their intelligence agents have discovered 7 different types of tattoos. Siwoo says that the Great Monarch possesses overwhelming stats in every way compared to the other orcs, and he's fought against one before. At the moment they appear, they tear down any tribal hierarchy, and that's why orcs with different tribal tattoos are all gathered. The moment a Great Monarch appears, orcs will instinctively swear their allegiance to it. Byung-soo says that despite being a returner, he seems quite confident regarding his knowledge of Earth's monsters, and he should leave this to the professionals and sit quietly. Siwoo says now he's being blatant with his hatred, and he presumes that Byung-soo must have illicitly occupied the state-regulated Ground Zero because they are all professionals. Seojin wonders what Siwoo did to piss the old dude off. Byung-soo says that he can hear both of them, and then he tells Siwoo that they are a real threat, as the orcs destroy everything in their path, and that him throwing a tantrum won't make things disappear. Siwoo tells Byung-soo to stop pissing him off, and the only reason he hasn't dealt with him yet is because of the minister. Sunho clears his throat, telling them to calm down, as this is a very serious situation. He asks Siwoo if there's a solution to this. Siwoo says it's simple, they just need to kill the monarch. They'd have to make far too many sacrifices to face 100,000 orcs, and the damage to normal civilians would be too great. Killing the monarch is the best choice, as the moment it dies, the orcs will go mad and begin fighting one another, as their tribes are enemies to begin with. Byung-soo asks what kind of nonsense Siwoo is yapping, reminding him that the warlord is surrounded by 100,000 orcs. Even if his deduction is true. In order to approach an army that's strong, their forces would have to break through all the way to the end, asking if he's wrong. Siwoo says that would be the case on land, but asks if there's really a need to approach them with that in mind, because they could just use an aerial attack with helicopters or even just bomb them. Another man speaks up, saying there is no guarantee that killing the unique entity will stop the monster wave, asking if they can interpret this as Siwoo saying that they ought to deploy their hunters despite the lack of such guarantees. We are introduced to the guild ranked number 1 in South Korea, called the Great Tiger Guild, and this is their representative. The man continues, saying this sounds as though Siwoo is asking them to sacrifice themselves for him. Siwoo laughs, saying if he doesn't have any countermeasures or solutions of his own, and yet he is willing to put on airs to avoid any losses, then just don't bother opening his mouth, saying he never told them to deploy hunters, as he will be the only one going in on this operation. He's heard that the media has been purposely exaggerating or fabricating his strength, and he'll take this chance to prove it unequivocally. And he'd like anyone with complaints to speak up, but also they need to get a helicopter ready for him as he plans to strike first, and to strike hard. One of the helicopter pilots asks if Siwoo is going to be fine on his own, and Siwoo says they don't need to worry about anything, as he'll resolve it in a flash. He's in a pretty good mood since he'll be able to get some fresh air high up in the sky, and he's missed riding griffins. They're surprised that he rode one, and he says that the riding experience wasn't the best, as helicopters are definitely way better. One of the pilots says he's more worried about Siwoo refusing the large Wyvern use anti-aircraft gun, asking if he has something else in mind. Siwoo says he has a few skills, saying he'll show them right now. As he puts his hand on the helicopter, he uses the active skill of the consecration house, and a strong blessing is now applied to the helicopter for a short period of time. The pilots are surprised, and Siwoo says the effect should be pretty good. Not even a monster would want to rush to its own death, so they should be pretty okay. Samyung is actually with Siwoo as well, as he is going to be his cameraman this time around. It was impossible to record anything in Ground Zero due to the magic energy contamination, but they will be able to record just fine in the Lost Lands north of the ceasefire line, as long as they watch out for monsters. Stacking up views of the livestream as the competition heats up is important, and Siwoo has no reason to refuse that. In addition, he could use fighting 100,000 orcs by myself, or I rode a helicopter into the Lost Lands, as some clickbait, and he starts going crazy thinking about it. He spots Samyung shaking and asks what's wrong, saying he doesn't have to worry, as it's going to be over soon. And Samyung says that he knows that this is the safest place, and it's just that it's a great honor to perform this duty, and he's so glad that Siwoo is allowing him to have the opportunity. As Siwoo recalls his conversation with Minsu, when Minsu told him that Samyung is a little crazy right now, he now understands what he meant, as bro is a fanatic. As they're now flying through the Lost Lands, some wyverns try to harass them, but they eventually just leave, leaving the helicopter unscratched. The pilot tells Siwoo 5 minutes until they arrive at the location, and says it was just as Siwoo said, as the monsters didn't bother them at all. Sunho then radios in, saying that he's watching, as he can't believe that Siwoo is live streaming the attack on MeTube, and he might need to submit an apology if this gets brutal. Dongshik says that he can cut it off if he's that worried, but Sunho says that he wonders about that. Plan A is that Siwoo will just deal with it, and in case that fails, the Great Tiger Guild will form a defensive line. Sunho says since they have a backup plan, and Siwoo wanted to do this himself, they can't really not allow him to do it. Last time they gave him the opportunity, He even started to fix some of Ground Zero for them. Dongshik tells Sunho that if Siwoo fails this solo operation, they will have to take on the burden of broadcasting a failed operation. Sunho tells him that if Siwoo can't stop it, then they wouldn't be able to do anything about the wave, and who cares about them anymore? They would just be useless, whether they broadcast it or not. If Siwoo were to fail, the end result would be the same. In that case, it would be better to raise the stakes. It has already been a long time since the awakened forces belonging to private large-scale guilds far outpaced the awakened forces belonging to the nation. The nation does not have the strength to keep the Awakeners coalition in check, and it absolutely does not have the strength to keep themselves from being checked either. Several large-scale guilds affiliated with the NAC have already dipped their toes in illegal territory. Dongshik tells Sunho that Siwoo isn't even affiliated with the department, and Sunho says he's also not affiliated with the NAC, asking if Dongshik knows why every country separately classifies returners, especially disaster class ones, even though they could classify them as S-rank hunters. Dongshik says that he does. Sunho says disaster class returners are people who have left remarkable legacies in their respective worlds before returning to Earth. Whether they are good or evil, they were beings that could influence the entire world order. If these people were to return to their homeland of Earth, what does Dongshik think is the probability that they'd submit to the existing authorities? Of course, there would be individual differences, and it would be inevitable for conflict to arise, which is why they are called disasters. Of the disaster classes who have returned, they've only been able to measure some of their strengths at that level. So what does Dongshik think would become of the class above that? That's the irregular level. Conflict is inevitable. Their duty is to direct that conflict such that it aligns with their interest as much as possible. Dongshik asks if that means to use Siwoo to keep the NAC in check. Sunho says they're not using him, as Siwoo himself said that he would help them and not the NAC. As powerless as they are, they can only do their best, asking if Dongshik thought they had the option to refuse. We start to see in the live stream, people are wondering if this is really live. Other people are still just trying to tell everybody to not pay any attention to the scammers. Sunho asks Dongshik if he sees what they're saying. One of the dudes is spamming that they're screwed. Dongshik tells Sunho they've already cast the die, so all they can do is humbly accept the results, whatever that may be. They've arrived above the helicopter operation area, and they have the monarch in sight. Siwoo jumps off the helicopter, saying that this is the official MeTube channel for the Reman Order. They should like, comment, subscribe, and even hit the bell. Y'all heard the man. A bright light appears in the air underneath the helicopter as Siwoo starts to descend down, and the orcs look up to notice that, only for it to be too late, as when he lands, he absolutely deletes everything beneath him. After Siwoo lands and the smoke starts to settle, him stepping out, saying that his knees hurt, saying maybe it's because he's getting old. We then hear an orc growling, and he asks if this is the first time they're meeting, saying that the dude is way bigger than he thought, but he really does think he looks quite familiar here. As he is now face to face with the warlord, he actually looks small from up high. The warlord says he doesn't understand. In the future he was told about, there wasn't anything about a human warrior. And he sensed a disgusting energy from him, an energy that opposes them. Siwoo says he's heard this before, and apparently, overlords like him don't occur naturally but are conceived through the demonic energy of others. There was the wyvern thing from before, and then the doppelganger and the lich, and he can tell now that all of their demonic energy is from Lucifer himself. It was the demon king of pride last time, but now it's the demon king of wrath with this warlord. He wonders why the demons are trying to come to Earth. The warlord says he has no need to answer Siwoo's questions, and all that needs to happen is for the chosen fate to occur and that he'll kill him here. As he raises his axe, Siwoo watches and then dodges out of the strike by leaping backward. He says that it looks like the destructive power of demonic energy, which enhances his physical strength, is not something he can take lightly. However, he wasn't planning to from the start, as his lightning aura swirls around him. As Siwoo starts to come down for his own punch, he swings, only for the warlord to block it with his axe. Siwoo laughs, saying that he's better than he thought he was, and it looks like they'd probably need around 6 S-rank hunters. He would be considered one of the strongest overlords even in Eden. The warlord says that his work has already been done and that he will blow the horn that starts battles, and human warriors cannot go against fate. He tells all of his orc warriors to follow him. Siwoo says he was told that demonic energy has a close relation to desperation, and this might be better for him because he can take care of them before they get any more dangerous, and that this would be perfect for me too. He pulls out his phone, telling the warlord to take a picture for the thumbnail. The warlord barks, telling him to go ahead and fight him, and he respects him for the courage to stand in his path. And as the overlord, he will take care of himself. Siwoo says he's in the middle of a shoot and he loves long and flashy action scenes, but that's not today's concept, as all of them are low-key ugly as hell. He didn't have to do these dudes dirty. Above all, he's fine with being a coward since he's not actually a warrior. The warlord wonders what Siwoo is talking about as he raises his hand, generating a massive orb. The status window says that the following skill actually exceeds causality, and Siwoo says he knew it. As such, the following skill has been adjusted to the causality allowed for him, and the active skill Tomb of the Holy Spear has been cast. As the lightning strikes start to look as if they're forming things in the sky, they reveal themselves to be spear tips as they strike down the ground, obliterating everything in their path, even shaking the area at ground zero. The warlord is absolutely riddled with the holy spears, and someone's watching it from a laptop. It's none other than Inwook, who says, "That was crazy." Even everybody in the chat asks what the hell is going on and wonders how this could even be faked in the first place, saying that it's straight cheat mode. Inwook says everybody will understand that they are all equal in the face of overwhelming strength. Inwook recalls this morning when Siwoo wanted soybean paste, and when Inwook said they had no potatoes, Siwoo threw money at him, telling him to go buy some. He says he can't believe this is the same person he was with this morning, and he forgot that Siwoo is an irregular, which is just absurdly strong. He says he never denied that he was an irregular, as his brother isn't the type to lie about that stuff. However, even if they brought the strongest heroes in South Korea, they wouldn't even hold a candle to him. All he can think of after witnessing that sight of Siwoo slaughtering the orc army was just one word: miracle. He wonders why that was the word that appeared in his head. People in the chat say that if they still think this is a scam after witnessing that, they need some real psychiatric help. They start talking about signing up for the order, while some people start to feel fear. We then see the orc warlord's hand actually twitch, and people are surprised that he lived through it. Even Inwook asks how. Siwoo notices it as well, though, and immediately smites him down again, this time finishing him off. He looks annoyed. Inwook says he can tell that low-key pissed him off because he didn't die in one strike, and that's the brother he knows. Back at the shrine, Siwoo says, "Who would have thought the warlord would be able to live through that?" And that ending was really disappointing, it just was not cool at all. Both Samyung and Minsu tell him that's not the case, and His Holiness showed an incredible demonstration of power. They don't think it could have been more perfect. He calls them fanatics, saying surely they'd agree that if it ended in one attack, it would look better. And Inwook just wonders what the hell is going on. Inwook just can't believe his brother is preoccupied with looking cool. Minsu says that after the Overlord was defeated, the remaining orcs started killing each other, just like Siwoo said, and the wave handled itself. The ability department is thanking him, and the NAC isn't saying anything. Inwook then holds up his phone, asking if they've seen this, because on the news there is a giant gate that is continuously growing, and people are panicked.